All right, well, welcome on this beautiful August day. Before we go any further, this community lost a young man who was playing football for the Federal Eagles, a young man named Alan Harris, 16 years old, who was playing football and actually getting ready for the upcoming season. And it was just simply a tragedy for this community. I had the honor of attending his memorial service along with Tammy Campbell and some members of city staff and the school district staff. I would ask that we honor Alan with a moment of silence. All right, thank you. It was the service was a celebration of Alan's life. One of the things that I just wanted to share with you, he was not of Pacific Islander descent, but he adopted that group, and they adopted him, and there was a real celebration of life there. And there was a very moving performance by the Pacific Islander group that was just actually very heartfelt, and it was beautiful. And so it was very, I think, important for that school community. All the football players were there, and all of the church community was there. It just serves to remind each and every one of us how every day is valuable and a treasure. So thank you very much for honoring Alan in that way. We have a very special presentation, and we're going to have a reception afterwards. I'm still in denial about this, but this is the last city council member for city council meeting for our public works director, Marwan Salloum. And Marwan has not only served the city of Federal Way for well over 23 years, but he has about 40 years of experience in his field. He worked at the city of Sumner before this, graduated from the University of Washington. But those are just raw numbers. But to know Marwan and to know the effect that he has had on this community, he was deputy director for a number of years before I had the honor of elevating him to director a few years ago. It has been my honor and my privilege to work with and in partnership with Marwan. I can tell you that there are many times that when the first flake of snow comes down, has come down in a December or January, even against my wife saying, "Don't bother Marwan on a Sunday night." Marwan's always on the other end of that phone, and we have those trucks ready to go at a moment's notice, and all the planning that goes with it, or the shopping carts that maybe you realize as you're driving around town that, gosh, there's a couple on 320th right now that are driving me crazy, but you see, we all see them around town. A shopping cart here, some debris here. Marwan, whether it's a council member or myself or a staff member, is so fast to make sure that we act on that, but more to the core of what Marwan has done over the course of his decades, over 2 decades of service to our community, are the roads and the streets and the improvements to this community. And one only need to look at a few before and after pictures of Pacific Highway and 320th. Remember how the flooding and the certain intersections, I remember when we first got here 25 years ago, that there would be certain intersections that were huge mud puddles or puddles that started as soon as the rain started. Those didn't go away by accident. Those went away because of great infrastructure work and all the grants and the work and the attention to detail. And that infrastructure is while it's hidden away from our everyday view, is layered in with the infrastructure that has been built in our city. Many of you may not realize, but probably we talk now about the sorry, Marwan, they got me going on infrastructure here. I have to talk about this. You know, over the course of the past 14 years, we have spent $85 million of taxpayer money improving Pacific Highway from 272nd or thereabouts down to 356th. $85 million. It's one of the major reasons why we did not want light rail to come down Pacific Highway, because of those improvements. So there's been just a tremendous amount of investment and work and attention to detail. And our Marwan has been ahead of that. And so, Marwan, if you can make your way to the podium here, I have something I'd like to give to you. And I've got a plaque here for your service. I'll go ahead and read it, and then join you at the podium. And it says, City of Federal Way, presented to Marwan Salloum with great appreciation. Oh, I better take out the readers. There's reading here. With great appreciation for 23 years of outstanding and dedicated service. Your service to our community and your leadership in the Public Works Department leave an enduring legacy of excellence. Thank you for your many years of service, presented by Mayor Jim Farrell and City Council on today's date, August 14th of 2018. Let's give Marwan a big round of applause. And then Marwan, after you say a few words, we're going to have the whole council come down and we'll do a picture.
All right, Mayor Farrell, member of the council, it's been my pleasure and honor to have worked for the city for the last 23 years. I started working for the city in April of 1995, and my first job was surface water capital improvement manager, just trying to make sure, as the mayor have indicated, to address all of the flooding problem we had within the city. So that was my first job, and as some of you may know, that we had flooding on 320th, Pacific Highway, First Avenue, 348, 356. So it was a major task to accommodate all of those projects and get them done. Shortly after those projects been done, I was transferred to the street system manager position. And the first task was, we need to improve our downtown and improve the infrastructure within our downtown. So the project within the downtown were 23rd Avenue widening, 320th widening, Pacific Highway Phase 1 between 324th and 312th, completion of the construction of 312 widening. Speaking of all of those projects, in the last 23 years, the City of Federal Way and the Public Works Department have completed $250 million of capital improvement project. The good story is that 60% of that was grant funding, state and federal grant funding. So thank you to the Public Works staff who have mastered the application process for grant funding, and we were able to get all of that money, to get all of that infrastructure completed. I also would like to thank the greater City of Federal Way staff for all of their hard work and dedication. And my wishes would be is for the council and the mayor to find a way to work hard on the 2019-2020 budget, to find a way to keep them, and to find a way to reduce their workload and adjust their salary, because I hate to see our staff continually move into a greener grass in other municipalities. We train them, we get them where we need them, and sadly they just move on to other municipalities because we are not able to pay them what they deserve. What I would like to do now is just maybe introduce my family. I have my family, the Salloum family over here. I have my wife of 40 years, Ragda. As a matter of fact, Ragda and I will be celebrating our anniversary, 40th anniversary, and my retirement the last week of August. So that's, thank you for the last beautiful 40 years, Ragda. Wow. And then I have my oldest son, Ziad, and my daughter Zena. And I have my youngest son, Zach, and his wife, Shannon, and his 1-month-old daughter, Roma. As a matter of fact, he's a smart one who got us, or find a way to get us to move to Florida and live with them for this winter at least, by giving us the title of grandparent. So, so definitely we'll be moving to Florida and trying to enjoy his family and our new granddaughter. Lastly, I would like to thank the mayor and the council for all of their past support of the Public Works Department staff and all of their hard work and accomplishment. And I appreciate the mayor mentioning all of the snow and ice that the Public Works Department manage and maintaining all of our infrastructure. Lastly, I think I'm thanking the mayor for the appointment of EJ. I mean, I think the Public Works Department under the supervision of EJ as a director and Desiree as a deputy director, I think they will be able to take the department to a new horizon. Thank you very much, Mayor.
So I'd like to invite the council to come down for a group picture, and Marwan and your family to come and be a part of this picture as well. So, and actually, I think Councilmember Moore wants to say something. Before we do that, I would mention that Deputy Mayor Honda and Councilmember Mark Kopang are going to be appearing telephonically on this meeting. They're both out of the state on pre-scheduled trip plans, but they're going to be part of this business meeting. I think we're going to phone them. We're going to connect them in after this recess. Or are they on right now?
Yep. They are on.
Okay, and so they're a part of this, and then we'll. I wanted to let the public know that Deputy Mayor Honda and Councilmember Kopang are going to be a part of this meeting. With that, Councilmember Martin Moore.
Mr. Mayor, it's a bit awkward for me to see you over there from over here, but Marwan, many thanks for all that you've done and for your incredible dedication for well over 20 years. For the city of Federal Way. It's been incredible. I have enjoyed working with you for the last nearly 5 years. And the story that I've shared before in public that I'll share again is it's our job, along with the mayor, is to produce results. And every time I've reached out to you to work on some sort of constituent issue, you have come through with flying colors. And you've helped myself and the city resolve those issues. And that speaks, and it certainly is a testament to your passion, your dedication, your commitment, and your experience to the city. And so I'm going to sincerely miss you. I think one of the worst parts of being a council member, Mr. Mayor, is just seeing good people go and retire. And I think it's hard because we're blessed. We're blessed to have so many incredible people working for the city of Federal Way, and it's only my wish that citizens know that. And so I'm glad that we acted to, I believe, appoint EJ as the director. I've gotten to know him, and he is a stellar individual, up-and-coming leader. And so I look forward to working with him, and I know that you guys have worked incredibly close, and I'm also looking forward to working with Desiree. I know that I love her presentations. They're just a lot of fun. And so thank you for everything, and I sure hope we'll see you every so often, and just thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore.
Marwan, I just wanted to thank you because when I first started here, I'm in my 3rd term, so it was quite a while ago that I started here, and I was pretty much a novice. I'd served on the Parks and Recreation Commission, and then I actually ended up chairing that. And I didn't know anything about parks at the time, but I certainly learned from you. And I learned how to appreciate them. And I'll never forget the time we went down and cleared up that lake that had been left to have old tires and all other stuff thrown in. We almost lost a council member, as a matter of fact. He was sinking in the mud, and we had to go save him. But that was such a fun experience, and I learned more about the ecology and the economy and what we really, I learned to appreciate things that I had never appreciated before. So I want to thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I also wanted to I agree with everyone's sentiments. I think Marwan's been a very strong asset to the city. And so the three words that come to mind when I think of Marwan is gracious, responsive, and efficient. I think he embodies all three of those characteristics in response to constituent needs, our needs, over the last 8 months getting to know you on land use. And so just really want to thank you for your service. And I'm happy to know that your anniversary date is the same day as my wedding date. So we share that date, so that's pretty cool.
Congratulations on the wedding.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Marwan, for everything you've done. We met when I was working here as staff, and your wealth of knowledge, I think we're going to miss. Personally, since I've been on the council, you've been responsive, and like you said, I mean, there's no question that is stupid to you. Every question deserves and gets all the attention, and I really appreciate that. So, going to miss you, but thank you so much for everything you've done here.
Thank you, Didi.
Sir, even though I'm one of the newest council member here and I only getting to know you for the short period of time, but I just want to let you know that the work that you and your staff have done for the city, I can see it and I can feel it. I'm sorry to see you go, but at the same time, I'm very happy for you. Happy retirement.
Thank you very much.
Okay. With that, let's do it.
Mayor?
Yes,
Mayor
please.
Carroll?
Yes.
May I say something?
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Honda, please.
Thank you. Marwan, I have learned so much from you, and it has been my privilege to know you and to get to work with you. Whenever I ask a question, as I often do, you either answered my question or you found someone who could, and I thank you so very much. Thank you for your service. I'm going to miss you and enjoy your granddaughter. I'm sure she's very precious.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Honda.
Okay. With that, let's do a picture. Come on down, everybody, and it'd be great to have your family involved. And you want to bring that for the picture? Sure. All right. Is Deputy Mayor Honda there?
Can you hear me?
Okay, there you are. And then Councilmember Kopang?
I am here as well.
All right. From Iowa and Wisconsin, respectively. So thank you very much for your telephonic presence. And I believe we have everybody else present. We've got a crowded agenda, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, the next, and once again, Marwan, congratulations, and thank you so much for your service. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Now we've got the Mayor's Quiet and Healthy Skies Task Force report. First, we'll have the staff report from Senior Advisor Yarden Weidenfeld, and then we've got task force members Dave Berger, William Brough, Chris Hull, and Britt Ohlig. Just want to say thank you. And our former chair, John Reesing, who's part of the START committee, he's present as well. I see you there, John. And I just want to say thank you so much to the task force members and to Yarden. Before we get started and get into this, they put together a 67-page report, and thank goodness they put together an executive summary to make it easy for us. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to make sure we could easily discuss this all night. So unfortunately, I think that we need to be very conservative with our time. I do want to say this isn't the only time we're going to deal with this as a council, as a city government, but we'll make sure that this gets back before the council for further follow-up. With that, Yarden, you are on.
Thank you, and I just want to make clear that there's a large number of copies of the PowerPoint at the front table with sort of in small print with a space to take notes if people want. And is Bill Brough here from the task force? No, okay. Just wanted to check. So, like the mayor said, I just really want to also acknowledge the work that volunteer, I mean, I'm paid to do this, but volunteer task force members, the former chair, like the mayor said, John Reesing, Chris Hall, who's himself a flight path designer. I don't think we could have done this without him. David Berger, who's a former city manager in California, who has experienced fighting airports in his professional career in the past. Britt Ohlig, an attorney in private practice, and Bill Brough, who's actually a retired flight deck design engineer as well. So as Mayor said, let's get right to it. So one of the things that we were really looking at is what is causing the increased amount of noise and noise complaints. And one of the big things was the third runway, which opened up on November 20th, 2008. And this slide was actually taken from a report that was provided to Councilmember Kopang and myself at a meeting that we had a couple months ago by Stan Shepard, who's the manager of the noise programs for the airport. I understand there's someone here that works for Mr. Shepard's department. I don't know. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to, because person here that I was told was going to be here. So this report, the key numbers here, if you look, I'm using a laser pointer. I think it's possible people on TV can't see that, but if you look at the 2011 arrivals on the third runway, we have 10,079 over there back in 2011, and that raised is now 57,287 as of 2017 that are arriving on the third runway, north flow landings, which are the ones that go over Federal Way. That's almost a 6-time increase, and that puts many planes directly over certain neighborhoods of Federal Way, particularly Marine Hills, that weren't there 10 years ago. So that's certainly one thing. And as was indicated, and the work that Task Force did, this was really, in some ways, very predictable. 21 years ago, the state funded a study on impacts that would likely result from the third runway. It was funded by the state from a grant from the state of Washington for the cities of Federal Way, Tukwila, Burien, Des Moines, Normandy Park, and SeaTac, and also for Highline School District and Highline Community Hospital. In that study, which is a lengthy study, I urge people to take a fuller look at it, and the full report has a lot more information on this. As the mayor said, this is a brief overview. But the key issue that we're pointing out from this slide is that at that time, 21 years ago, this study recommended that Federal Way neighborhoods get a total of $107.9 million plus $40.2 million, which comes to $149.1 million in mitigation, which, as Mr. Hull helped me with a website that translates to today's dollars, $232 million in today's dollars. None of that was ever paid. I will say that the Port has stated, I've heard Port officials state publicly that their position was that the methodology of this study did not hold up. That's one of the reasons why none of that mitigation was ever paid. Now, The next slide, and the main reason that the port in many of the presentations that we've seen has stated for the increased complaints on noise, and this is from the port's presentation itself, is the increased number of just plain operations. In airport terminology, I wouldn't have known this before I started this, an operation is just either a takeoff or a landing. So you can see that back in 2013, to 2016, just in those 3 years, the dramatic number, 94,984 operations increase. That's 260 more aircraft every single day that is going over homes. And again, this slide was taken directly from a presentation by the port. So this isn't, some kind of propaganda or anything. This is taken directly from the port's presentation, and showing that every day, 260 more aircraft every single day. So that's one of the, certainly, and the port has stated that's the reason for the increased complaints, so it's certainly one of the reasons. If you look here, the impacted areas, I mean, this map is a little difficult to read. I was talking to Chris about this beforehand, who works with these every day, and he was saying, well, it's second nature to him. For me, not as much. Over here, this landmass here is Vashon Island. Federal Way is like right in here. Is that right, Mr. Hall? Right in this area?
Yeah.
Nautilus School right over here, and then Federal Way right below over here in this area where the red beam is right here. So you can see that the many of the flight paths going right over Federal Way. And most of, as the port states, that the neighborhoods on the north side of Federal Way that are aligned with the runways are the main ones that are impacted. But you can see from this map that all of Federal Way is impacted to some degree from those white lines, which represent one flight path, either takeoff or landing. And then as a result, and actually I have to credit Mr. Riesing, the chair, for urging me to actually get this data, but we took some data from the port. We just got a public records request on June 2nd, 17 about just Federal Way noise complaints. So the key thing I was going to point out here is that in zip code 98003, right over here, we went from 2 complaints per month up to more than 7 complaints per month in the period comparing January 14 through the middle of 15, compared with the middle of 15 through the middle of last year. So you can see right there a dramatic increase in the number of noise complaints. The next thing that we looked at in the study was...
Actually, Yarden, can you go back one slide and look at the 98023, which is west, everything sort of essentially west of First Avenue, or actually in that general area.
Right, and that one is not as dramatic an increase. It went from about a little over 5 per month to about 5.25 per month in that zip code in terms of the number of complaints.
Okay.
So right. 9803 was the one where we had the biggest increases.
We probably gave up on complaints.
Could be.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're looking at how, or can this be abated, and what would be the reasons? And so one of the things that that we looked at was the glide slope, the angle of landing. All the runways on the north side, which are the ones that don't go that don't go over Federal Way, use the international standard, which is a 3-degree glide path. But the approaches to the longest runway, which is 34R, that go over Federal Way, are actually the only ones that are on a lower 2.7-degree glide slope. So it means that aircraft over Federal Way are lower, closer to the home, schools, and businesses, and are no longer in the optimized profile descent. And actually, as was indicated in the report, in addition to being lower, it also means that they may be forced to increase power at the time when they're in the landing. They're more likely they'd have to increase power and therefore emissions to stay on that shallow path. So one of the things that we looked at was at Nautilus School, the difference between a 2.75-degree glide path and a 3-degree glide path, it would be the same difference as if the school was raised from being just 1 floor to being 13 floors high. That would be the equivalent distance. The next few slides are talking about the way that flight tracks could change to abate some of this. And this is very technical, and I asked Chris if he wouldn't mind just going through the next couple of slides, just because it's very technical engineering type issues. So go ahead.
Thanks, Yarden. I hope I'm not going to get real technical on this particular one, but basically this is an approach, an FAA compliant approach that would keep the tracks over water on this specific one happens to go into 3-4 left. You'll notice it could easily have a final rollout point there of 3.1 nautical miles. That's where the red line ends. So if a plane is on approach, it is not an issue for them to keep this away from the metropolitan areas. And on the right side is the zoomed in area. You can see it happens to cut in, and this bank again is well within criteria. Goes directly over the least populated areas. So there are some mitigation opportunities, and it's not completely a slam dunk. There's a few things that may need to change on their end, but is it possible? Yes. Have they investigated it? I don't know. I would sure like them to. So we're working on that.
Just the down arrow.
Yeah. The next slide, these are actually the departures from the same area. This happened when a front was coming through, and you'll notice the way they curved out, and these turn out much sharper than I would, but if ATC vectors the aircraft, they can absolutely avoid all of Federal Way residents. I was sitting in my house watching this, and I couldn't hear these planes, right? So I real quick snapped some screen images as to what they were doing. You know, again, we're talking about the same jets that are flying over and bothering all of us. They're spending extra time, extra fuel, and extra money whenever they're headed to the Northwest, or if headed to Asia or the Northwest, flying down to us to hit more homes. When they could be cutting out, they could be flying along the Sound, down along closer to northeast Tacoma, in between Vashon, and threading that island and up over Gig Harbor. Again, I wouldn't have them turn this sharp. But some options, they're already doing it when they need to. We know they can do it. Ironically, the Port of Seattle's noise mitigation plan, and this is their slide, says that those departures aren't allowed to turn until they're 5 nautical miles out, which again, if you notice the way the land falls there, forcing them down 5 miles before they can turn means they have to fly over people. If they turn sooner, as we just showed, they wouldn't be flying over people. So there are some mitigations. We would like to see them implemented.
Thanks. Thank you. And I'll resume here. So each section of the report summarized with some recommendations. So in terms of noise impacts, the recommendations that the task force came up with for the city, first of all, to support Congressman Adam Smith's Aviation Impacted Communities Act. This act would expand the definition of an aviation impacted community. A lot of people have heard that the noise contour, the 65 DNL, that basically excludes all of Federal Way. Well, Congressman Smith's legislation would actually expand the definition to include a larger area than just that. It would also require the FAA to work with community boards that would be designated by impacted communities on their concerns, on studies they want done, and on action that they want taken. It would actually mandate that that happens. So that's one thing. Second, we have lobby to change all glide slopes to at least 3 degrees or higher, and the flight paths, they don't go over populated areas. That's what we just discussed. That would take some lobbying, because that ultimately is up to likely the FAA, actually. And then third, make the case that the third runway should only be used for its original purpose, which was inclement weather. That was what was promised 21 years ago. And finally, and I will state that only 3 of the 20 or so approximate recommendations of the task force involved spending money. This is the first one, which is to purchase a portable noise monitor. And I think when we started last year, I think John had asked us to look into it, and I think the cost of that was somewhere around $15,000, I believe, if I remember correctly, something to that effect. So that's the only one we've had so far that would cost any city money. For the next one, next section of the report, a lot of people have talked about the problem with cargo flights, particularly late at night between 10 p.m. and 8 and 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. And that's been, SeaTac's now the 9th busiest airport in the United States. So, you know, that's part of the issue, and cargo is a big part of it. So what we see here is that the port handled 425,000, approximately 800 metric tons of air cargo in 2017. That itself was over a 16% increase in 1 year. It was the 6th straight year that there was an increase in cargo, and as of just a month or so ago, cargo had risen another 5.1% in 2018. The other thing is that in their Century Agenda goal, the port has officially stated that their goal is to triple air cargo to 750,000 metric tons in the next 20 years, I believe. And also, the other thing, and this has been pointed out a number of times, that although, and we'll get to whether they could have any authority to limit this, they actually, in addition, and one thing that has disturbed people, is in addition to doing it, they actually market and emphasize that SeaTac has 24-hour operation with no curfews. So that's something that's actually marketed to cargo characters. And as we know, and people have talked about in here, Middle of the night cargo flights have led to many complaints. They're articulated in length in the full report. I will say that the airport director, as well as several port commissioners, have publicly spoken that they're trying to get resolution. They know it's a problem as well, and they're trying to work on it. The trouble, I would say, this slide is basically the bottom line of about 10 pages of legal analysis that was done in the report. The bottom line, though, is that current law, federal law, does not allow airport, unless it's grandfathered before 1990, to adopt restrictions like curfews unless every aircraft operator agrees to it or it's approved by the FAA after a very difficult process called a Part 161 submission. As it says there, that's only since the ANCA law was passed, which was 1990, there's only one time that an airport in 1991, a small airport, got a Part 161 approved. I looked in the report, the details a recent fight in East Hampton, New York that just ended a few months ago, where a small airport in East Hampton tried to impose a curfew and lost after a lot of litigation. They didn't use the process. And although that was a Court of Appeals Circuit 2, Circuit 9, Division 9 here in this Washington State and California, they also had a case that said no airport operator can impose a stage 3, which is the level of noise that aircraft are now, restriction unless the FAA gives its approval. So it does, the law is pretty clear. You have to go through this Part 161 submission, which is a very expensive and time-consuming process. So that's something I know that the port is reluctant to do. So our recommendations in this part are first of all, support for the port's effort and pressure to intensify them to get voluntary compliance, which I know I've heard the airport the port's executive director, the airport director, and several port commissioners saying that they would like to try to do because they understand it's a problem with the community. Pressure on the port to see if some cargo flights could be voluntarily moved to other airports. Pressure to, and again, as been stated, they can't necessarily stop it, but they don't necessarily have to affirmatively market 24-hour availability for cargo. So that's another thing. And we did put in long term, if this doesn't work, we may want to look at trying to get them to go through a Part 161. But as I said, I think that would probably take some allies. It's a very difficult process. So the next section dealt with other health impacts that have been brought up by many commenters as well, including the issue of ultrafine particles, which are very tiny particles. They're 100 nanometers. That's a billionth with a B of a meter. So in diameter, it's kind of an emerging area in the in studies right now. Although right now the University of Washington, we've heard from this a few times. Public Health is doing a study funded by the state with legislation that was co-sponsored by our own rep, Mike Licciati, on the levels of these UFPs in areas impacted by SeaTac, to do next December, about a year and a half from now. And I think that our former chair, John Reesing, is actually, is on the advisory committee for that study. I will say that although there's been, just one quick second. So, like I said, that it is an emerging field of study, a lot of increased number of studies these days. However, the UW study is not a study on the health effects of UFPs. It's just looking at the prevalence of them around SeaTac Airport. There have been prior studies on health effects of them, but they're mostly limited to roadway traffic studies. But those studies have suggested some association with cardiovascular, respiratory, and possibly cancer. There's only been one study from what we've been presented by the UW people at Highline Forum that was specifically on airport-related UFPs. That was on in LA on asthmatic adults, showing an increase in inflammatory blood markers and a reduction in lung function. But that was the only one study on airport-related UFPs. So that's kind of where we're at now. We definitely want that study to continue. So the recommendation in this section is first of all, support funding needed for the second phase of the UW study, which my understanding is Representative Licciati has stated that he would be sponsoring in the next legislative session. That would be on the health impacts. And support also the efforts. Congressman Smith has been trying to get a bill passed mandating a federal study on health effects. Of course, encourage the Port of Seattle to continue supporting research into that area. And then also ensure scoping on the upcoming airport expansion plan, Sustainable Airport Master Plan. Environmental impact statement includes an examination of ultrafine particles and other emissions, pollution, general health, and quality of life that have been talked about and the need for those mitigation. So that comes to the final section I'll talk about today. There's one or two other sections in the report that I don't have time to go through, but the final section deals with the Sustainable Airport Master Plan. The port is projecting an increase in annual passengers. We've heard from 46.9 million now, 56 million in 2027. That's a 19.4% increase to 66 million by 2034. That's over a 40% 6% increase in passengers than we have right now. So, you know, as bad as it might be right now, difficult, you know, that's what they're projecting at this point for passenger load. To meet that need, they're proposing constructing a second passenger terminal with 19 gates, taxiway extensions, more air cargo facilities, and about 30 other infrastructure projects. The plan for future operations, their projections in one of their technical memos from this project, they say they're projecting for future operations is probably underestimated, because in the charts where they estimate how many actual operations, again, that's takeoffs or landings, they're saying that 2019 would have 398,910 operations, whereas in fact, as we saw from a previous slide, already in 2016 there was more than that, 412,000. So even with those underestimated projections, they're still projecting 540,400 takeoffs or landings by 2034, which would be a 31.1% increase over 2016. So that's what we're dealing with at this point. The SAMP has to be analyzed under environmental laws, the impact on human health, the environment. The Washington law is SEPA, a lot of people are familiar with that. Federal law is NEPA. The scoping began 2 weeks ago, yesterday, July 30th, and goes till September 28th. They are having a public scoping meeting in Federal Way on the night of September 17th in the community center. The board's holding that. When scoping is done, they'll start drafting the environmental statement. A draft is expected next summer, which will then be another public comment period in the fall of 19. And then the final is supposed to be issued at least according to the current schedule now, by the end of 2019. So recommendations in this section, we want to encourage the Port Commission effort to explore alternative airport locations to the extent that they can do so. Advocate for the city's interests with respect to the PSRC's Central Puget Sound Regional Aviation Baseline Study, and supporting setting of a new regional airport once that's completed. I've talked about this here before. Mayor Farrell supported that study at the recommendation of the task force in February, voted for it, successfully got the language of scoping changed so it includes capacity of the airport as well as impacts to nearby cities. That's funded by the FAA, is supposed to be done by the end of next year. It's not a siting study.
And if I could, my comments at the time were essentially, there's got to be, with only 2,500 square feet of, not square feet, is it 2,500? Acres, 2,500 acres. One of the smallest footprints, especially when you consider how busy it is. There has to be a capacity line at this airport, and so we were mystified that they had excluded that language on there, and they've got to also weigh and study its effect on the neighboring communities, us. And so I think at some point there's a fill line which they can't. I said this at the PSRC on this very issue.
And if I can put a plug for Mayor Farrell, he was the only mayor to say anything about this study, and really was, pushing, lobbying to get the good language in there, and no other, I don't think any other mayor did so. So Mayor Farrell really stood up there and got that language. And it's not a siting study. I know people have been disappointed about that, but it is a study that will look at a baseline, and I think the hope is that it would lead to a potential siting study in the future if they find that clearly would be necessary. Next, supporting State Rep. Picciotti. He had an aircraft noise abatement bill that did not move last session, but he's planning on reintroducing it. It would increase the area in which the port would be allowed to pay for mitigation from 6 miles to 12 miles, so it would include Federal Way. I will note it still would not necessarily mean they could use federal funds in that area, because that revolves around federal law, but it would at least get rid of the issue with state law. And then finally, and now I said there's 3 recommendations that involve spending funds. This is the second one. Engaging technical and legal expertise needed for analysis of and response to forthcoming SAMP environmental review. We're in scoping right now. I've preliminarily spoken to a potential consultant. She has said that the scoping period is not as critical as next year, which is environmental review. She did come up with a proposal where she could help us with scoping for a very small fee, about $4,000. It would be more next year. Also, the 4 cities of Tukwila, Burien, Des Moines, Burien, Des Moines, Normandy Park, and SeaTac have signed an agreement right now. They've outlaid, among the 4 of them, $175,000 initial outlay to jointly hire a consultant. So one option would be to join theirs, or I've looked at one of our own as well. I'll be meeting with some staff about that this week. Again, this year is be helpful to participate in the scoping process, but the person I spoke to said the critical time is next year when the draft environmental impact statement is released. So, and I've spoken with our own staff about that as well. So that's the second item. And then the third, oh, that's not right. Third item that would be a funding item would be supporting the Department of Commerce study of SeaTac airport impacts, including contributing a share of funding. The council 7-0 voted to support the proviso on that. Mayor Farrell is recommending that the city contribute to that study in the amount of $70,000, 35 next year, 35 the year after. I'll be presenting an ILA on that interlocal agreement at the next council meeting, I believe, on that. So that would be that's the three recommendations that involve spending money out of about over 20. And then finally, the task force recommends that the city council form an aviation impacts committee that would deal with city issues. So that ends the basic presentation. I think I was going to call on each task force member that is present to just say brief words about what they're most interested in. I want to start with Britt. Line.
I just wanted to thank the mayor for putting together this great committee, and we've all worked really hard. I think the issues are really important to the residents of this community. Life is stressful enough as it is, and people need some quiet. They don't need to be woken up in the middle of the night. With the air quality the way it is right now, we don't need the added pollution. I think one of the issues is just the planes are flying a lot lower, and they're flying over the same houses continually every 90 seconds instead of spreading out. So we thank you for taking this issue seriously, and any way that we can help in the future, we'd be more than happy to do so.
Thank you, Britt. All right, David Berger.
And I just want to, before I forget, say one thing. The full report is Mr. Heather Hemstreet, our communications director, placed at the very front of the city's website. So you just have to go to cityofFederalWay.com, and immediately you can click on the full report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I am Dave Berger, and it certainly was a lot of hard work getting this report put together. I hope it's of value to the mayor and city council and if you will, a roadmap that hopefully results in a strategy for successfully dealing this time, unlike 20 years ago, with either abating or at least mitigating this growth plan that the port has proposed. I just want to also, on a substantive standpoint, comment about the PSRC study. 22 years ago, the state tasked the PSRC with a siting study. They actually concluded that there needs to be, 22 years ago, needed to be another regional airport in either Pierce or Thurston County. Unfortunately, the state itself, which would have had to move that forward, the State Transportation Department, they just dropped the ball. It didn't happen. And this study that Yarden mentioned that's coming up that the mayor advocated for is not a siting study. So it really is incumbent, I believe, on the governor and legislature now to start teeing up that whole issue of another regional airport in an area that perhaps could be to the south. There's, I understand, a proposed high-speed rail that's being looked at between our region and the Portland region, and putting an airport, another regional airport on that rail makes a lot of sense, I think, in terms of an integrated, sustainable transportation system that this state is going to need into the future. SeaTac is already at capacity, if not near it, and the notion of trying to squeeze another 400,000, is it 200,000? 200,000 flights a year into that airport, as the mayor said, at only 2,500 acres is ludicrous, truly ludicrous. So thank you again for considering this report.
Well, Dave, thank you very much for lending your experience as a former city manager, and you also served this community with distinction with the Blue Ribbon Panel for the Performing Arts and Event Center. So thank you very much. All right, and now Chris Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me be on that. I certainly appreciate it all the time. And to the council members, I would just urge you to, recognize what everybody is enduring that is under it. We're looking at the fact that today we have 1,100 flights or 1,100 operations going over us every day. We have the SAMP looking at bringing close to another 500 over us is what they're projecting. And we look at Everett somehow magically getting Payne Field's 24 flights per day to be ceased, and oh, we have to time out on that. We can't have 24 up here. I think there's an imbalance, and I recognize that the port's focus on, hey, this is an economic activity. We have to do this because the Puget Sound region demands it, but all of the burden is shared by a very few. And it seems like, well, according to the study in 1997, that 95% of the users of that airport are from elsewhere and from outside the impacted cities, pardon me. So I would urge you to continue supporting those things. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much. I do want to say some of the glaring statistics is a 6-time increase in the third, what's referred to as the third runway. That is a 600% increase, and then the other statistic was 200 flights a day just in 4 years. And I think one only need to take a look at where this is headed. It's very, very concerning for our community. I think the last point is probably the most, you could see that there are a number of things that we're going to be doing. We're going to be, my recommendation, we're going to get this in front of the council for affirmation in regard to making sure we've got noise monitors, making sure that we're engaged on these studies. But it's that last point to make sure that we don't just do a one and done on this study and put it on a shelf and just let it start collecting dust. That's not going to happen. And that's why Yarden's going to be working on this. That's why our legislative delegation, it's going to be a major part of our efforts moving forward. And I'd like to say, once again, a special thanks to the task force and Yarden. Yarden put in Herculean efforts to get this report done. And we did it right. And I think there was some discussion about getting it done a little bit earlier, but it literally took the time to get this 67-page report done to where it was something of value. It's something we can use. So, Council, any questions on any of this?
Yeah, right here.
Councilmember Johnson, then Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yarden, thank you for your presentation. I just had a quick comment. I remember I think it was a month back when the Port Commissioner came and presented, he talked about some of those meetings for feedback from the community. And so I think a lot of them were focused on the east side. Do you have any idea when those dates will be for our community?
I'm sorry, a lot of them focused on what? I didn't hear.
The east side of the
Oh, okay. So the port is holding, and actually, the person here at the port would probably know better, but the port is holding several public community scoping. They're holding an agency scoping meeting, which is for city governments, which is at SeaTac. I think it's the first week of September, I think something like that. And then there's a public scoping meeting in the Federal Way Community Center, which is right around the corner from here, September 17th, 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Is that right? I just want to make sure I got that right. I believe that that's the right date. It's September 17th, and then there's several at other communities as well. There's going to be one in Burien, I believe. I really only kind of marked down the one in Federal Way. Yeah, 17th at 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in the Federal Way Community Center for public scoping of this State of Airport Master Plan. So.
Okay, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you. In fact, I would encourage for Tyler to put that out on our Facebook page and certainly at our website if that's possible, in case people want to review that for dates and whatnot. Yarden, if I understand this correctly, this actually used to be a longer document, and now it's gotten shorter, is that right? With this policy?
Well,
yeah.
Were you talking about the PowerPoint or
the original?
The 67-page report?
Yes. Was
no, that's the full report.
Okay, that's the full report. Okay. There's a lot of reports that you come up with, and sometimes they're very long, and they're wonderful to read. So, so thank you for your report, of course.
And I want to say that large parts of it were completed by Mr. Hall and Mr. Berger and others, so I just want to make sure that's clear as well.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and echo that. I know that right about I think September, October, I met with a small group to talk about this issue at Mr. Berger's house. And so I appreciated your time and efforts on that. It's certainly something I've not forgotten. Certainly, we've all doorbelled Marine Hills, and it's an issue that you hear loud and clear. Well, sometimes you can't hear it, but, you do hear people when you're talking one-on-one when there's no airplanes. And so it's an issue that is certainly is important to me as well. And so I'm going to continue to be dedicated to this and do whatever I can to make sure that we're continuously moving forward. I will say that having heard this issue for a long time, I am fairly pleased with how far we've come with this.
Me too.
And I think we've never gone this far as long as this issue's been around, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And so I'm pleased with that, and I think that I hope will give confidence to the Marine Hills and other parts of our community, some confidence in that. Now, in our last slide for my colleagues, and as my colleagues are on the phone as well, you know, I wanted you to dig a little bit deeper, and then I'll do a little closer. But supporting Department of Commerce study of SeaTac airport impacts, including by contributing a share of funding. Now, I know that I believe you said something to the fact that the federal might be participating in that.
Will be
upon council.
If you guys agree.
Exactly. And so, what is? I mean, how does that compare to other jurisdictions?
I'm not sure what you mean by other jurisdictions.
What are the other shares?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, I understand. Okay, so the state came up with $300,000. We were originally hoping for $500, but the state came up with $300, again, pushed by Representative Mike Licciati, our representative, and on condition that the local cities of SeaTac, Burien, Des Moines, Normandy Park, Tukwila, and Federal Way match that. So first of all, this was led by the city of SeaTac. So they said they would match whatever the match was. So in other words, if we had to come up between the 6 cities with 300, they were doing 150. So SeaTac is putting in 150,000. The other cities, the way that it was agreed upon, and it basically came to an impasse at a certain point, and you know, people were almost ready to walk away from it. It was really at an impasse, and I was involved in this. That the ultimate agreement was that it would be based on a per capita, like based on the size, population of each city. Not SeaTac. SeaTac is on its own. They're doing 150, which is half of the match. But the other 5 cities was divided by per capita, based on the size of each city.
Interesting. Okay. And then on another question, you know, I have been hearing in the news and also reading articles that there is potential interest, and you touched up on this a little bit, of having another airport. I mean, based on your research and whatnot thus far, how realistic do you think that is? Because I've heard stuff in Everett, I've heard things in Snohomish, Painfield. I mean, what's your 2 cents on that?
You know, I think from what we've sort of presented and what, you know, Chris Hall said and Dave Berger and so on, I think it's probably necessary. I mean, it's what I think we've come to that conclusion. I think probably necessary, so it's got to be made to happen. I mean, how realistic it is how much political will there is really. As David Berger said, I mean, 21 years ago, the Puget Sound Regional Council study said that you needed a second regional airport then, and it wasn't done. So the question is, at this point, is there a political will? And I think the PSRC study will likely, you know, we would think, and I think a lot of activists supported that study because they felt maybe it shows the FAA is finally realizing that there needs to be a new regional airport. So the hope is that it'll show what the mayor has said about the problems with capacity, and then that'll be like, okay, here's what you need to do. This is not sustainable. And in the City Airport Master Plan, the port itself has said they don't have any sort of modeling for going past 2027. They themselves don't know how to take it past 2027. So I think there's a lot of things in the mix that would lead to some more hope this could happen. But if you read in the full report, you'll see there's a lot of a section about how we need to be more savvy about how we approach these things, because ultimately it will depend on the political will, essentially, I think is the only thing I could say on that. So.
Well, and just closing, I'm so sorry, I apologize, Mr. Mayor. Just in closing, like I said, thank you for that information. I find that interesting. And I think you're right. I think it's the more power we have and the more leverage we have, you know, I think something can happen, and I'm optimistic that something can happen so long as we keep pressure on the federal government as well. So thank you for all that you've done. I will say this, you know, a couple weeks ago, Mr. Mayor, actually, as you recall, I went to Arizona and I came back and I was thoroughly amazed at how low we were to the houses, and it's just like you can almost see people walking down, you know, on the streets, and I just thought I just kind of caught my attention. So this is an issue that we need to continuously put high pressures on our port commissioners, especially the one that was in Federal Way several months ago. I know he's brand new, so I don't recall his name.
Ryan Hawkins.
Thank you. And with our federal government and with our state legislature and with everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Duclos?
Just another comment, since I'm one of those people who live in the glide path and hear them when they come in at 2 o'clock in the morning. and all through the summer especially, it's terribly loud. It also devalues our property.
Yeah.
And that's something that we need to be reimbursed for if this continues.
That was something talked about in the 97 study. Again, I was only limited how much time I could put here, but that's in the full report is the economic devaluation.
I think it needs, everybody that lives over in that area, their houses are devalued while everybody else's are going up. And so I think we need to compensate. The port needs to compensate people for this.
That was in the 97 recommendation study,
Well,
and we talked about that in the report.
It really is threefold. It is for individuals whose homes, not houses, homes, are affected, by this noise. Then you've got the economic impact on people who put, the bulk of their savings and their life's work into their homes. Then you've got the health impacts. And the health impacts that are concurrent with noise and all kinds of studies there, but then you've got the particulates. I think, part of the reason why this is multi-layered, it's like a three-dimensional game of chess. You've got the federal, you've got the port, you've got the state legislative aspect, and one of the things you all remember that in this very room in November, as some of the folks that are here today were there, we had a televised meeting on this issue in November of 2015. And one of the things I did not want to do is just flail at the machinery of the FAA and the airport without any true game plan. And one of the reasons why we wanted to get good people that had expertise on this is to help us start to navigate our way through a true path of effect on this issue. And I think 260 flights a day increase just in the past 4 years, and what's planned is a staggering, if you think about the health, the value, and the noise and the quality of life, the inability of people to actually have a conversation inside their home with the windows open. And so I just want to let everybody here know that's in the audience and watching, we're going to start becoming the unreasonable person on unreasonable party on this and be the rock in the river. And that's what we need to do. And we just need to make sure that we are saying that we are not going to allow the city of Federal Way to get run over by this, because that's really what is proposed, and what is being scheduled is a dramatic increase in impact on this community, and we're not going to let that happen. So,
Mayor Carroll?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. I have a couple questions on the ultrafine particle study.
Yep.
Is Federal Way included in that? Are they investigating our area?
We've got John Riesling here. My understanding is yes. Both John and I sat down with the congressman to request this legislation.
No, I think she's talking about the state study. I think.
Oh, the state study.
Yeah, and John, John's on the advisory board for that study, but I think it does include. John,
does that include Federal Way? He's got a pink sheet. He's going to address that. But could you give us either a yes or a no?
Yes and no.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, that's why it's complicated, you guys. So, Deputy Mayor, hang on for that when John has completed a pink sheet, and he'll talk about that during his comments. Thank you, John.
Okay, and I have two other questions.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. My understanding is that the city of Tukwila has dropped out of providing any funding. Is that true?
They're not part of the interlocal agreement that's funding the expert for the Sustainable Airport Master Plan. I have not been alerted that they're not funding the air impact study. That's not something I will say. In the meeting I was in a few days ago, the Tukwila person was not there, so maybe there's something I don't know, but I have not been alerted to that.
Okay, and then my last statement is I'd like to thank all of the community members who worked so hard on this, and thank staff who worked hard on this report. But we're not talking just about one neighborhood. We often hear Marine Hills over and over and over, and this impacts many, many neighborhoods in the city of Federal Way, and we will work our hardest to make sure that every neighborhood gets some kind of relief from this.
Correct.
And I think we need to make sure that we let the public know that.
Good point. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. All right, Councilmember Asefa Dawson.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the work that you guys have put into it. One thing I have not heard yet is whether or not the airlines are at the table. and the manufacturers like Boeing, because I think they should also take responsibility and ownership for these aircrafts that are noisy? And are they at the table, and do we know anything about that?
I will say, I mean, to whatever extent the Alaska Airlines and Delta are represented on this SeaTac Airport Stakeholders Roundtable start, there is a representative from Alaska and Delta on that, not a Boeing though, so I'm not sure. I mean, the port obviously has regular conversations with the airlines. That's one of the things they've been trying to get voluntary compliance from some of the international carriers on cargo, but we have not had any direct, other than start with the airlines or with Boeing. So.
Okay, Council, anything else? All right, we've got a lot of business to proceed on to the rest of the evening. Thank you very much, Yarden. For those folks interested in this issue, or for the general public, more to follow on this. We're going to keep following up, make sure that progress is made on these studies, that progress is made on these items, and so we'll keep you posted. Thank you very much for your work. Okay, now moving on to my report. I have great news that we received this week. Actually, I'd heard about it, but we just got the formal letter from our King County Councilmember, Pete Van Reichbauer, that, and I'll just read the pertinent parts, that he wrote myself a letter, and he wrote, I am writing to inform you that the King County Council has approved my request to award the City of Federal Way an additional $100,000 as part of the, quote, Building for Culture grant. The grant, which I developed with my colleagues, will provide additional funding to improve signage for the Federal Way Performing Arts and Event Center. So the Performing Arts and Event Center just received $100,000 from King County for signage. So that's good news for the city, and thank you to our partner, Pete Van Reichbauer. Now, moving on to the other report, I had the sad duty, along with probably well over 1,000 people, law enforcement officers, mayors, public officials, the governor, the county executive, to attend fallen Kent police officer Diego Moreno's memorial at the Kent Show Where back on July 31st. It was really, it was a celebration of his life. He sounded like quite an interesting and energetic and dedicated police professional, human being, father, and just tragic circumstances that he lost his life in the line of duty, and the law enforcement and the community and the entire state really did honor to Diego and his family. So it was sad, but it was important that we were there as a community to honor his service. And his mother and his wife gave tremendous statements and really moved the entire audience. Transitioning to another issue, we've got a Flavor of Federal Way on Saturday the 18th. We've got our Diversity Chair, Greg Baruso, who is present. And Chair Baruso, can you let us know what's going on with the Flavor of Federal Way?
I will, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor and Deputy Mayor on the phone, and council members and citizens. I made sure that worked. Sorry. I'm here to report on our first annual, invite the public here and everyone here to our first Flavor Federal Way. August 18th, Town Square Park, this Saturday from 11 to 5. It's done by brought to you by Diversity Commission in partnership with Fancy Leadership and, of course, the City of Federal Way. The Flavor Federal Way is not only just a food festival that some people might think. You see the four on there, food, music, art, dance, but there's more to it. It's a multicultural festival. It's a celebration of our cultures and our community and just our city itself. If you look around at the community and the faces, they're all different. How do we understand that? One of the things we're trying to do is this event right here. We've worked hard. Our committee and our subcommittees on the commission, we worked hard to get sponsorships I talked about last time. If you take a look at our gold sponsorships, we have H-Mart, the Alavar Immigration Law, and of course Grace Church. We followed down with our silver and bronze and in-kind sponsors. In-kind sponsored Federal Way Mirror. If you look at what they've done for us for advertising and pictures, and they've done everything that we've asked them to do. Every week there's something in there. about that. Talking Rain, they've agreed to donate about 2,400 bottles of water for the event. It's going to be warm that day on Saturday, I would hope, and get rid of some of this haze. But we got that donated for them. Lloyd's Enterprises, our former Diversity Commission member, Chris Brown, who always helps out with the MLK event, has agreed again to help me out, help us out, with a lot of pickups and drop-offs, a lot of things we have to pick up. The water is in Preston, Washington, so I've got to go get that. And that'll be on Friday. Walmart is donating the ice for the water. I had to get something to keep it cold, so we did that. We're proud to say that we have over 60 vendors, about 65, 67 when you count the food vendors. If you go down the list, they have H Mart, KCD's Barbecue, Tamu Foods. They specialize in samosas. If you haven't had a samosa, it's kind of like a rolled triangular pastry. It's filled with things like spiced potatoes, onions, and peas, and lentils. So I haven't had dinner yet, so I'm getting a little hungry here. But Lumpia World, of course. Lumpia is Filipino, and so the Lumpia World will be there. East India Grill, we all know about East India Grill. El Harachi Local, of course, that's the traditional flavors of Mexico. And then Nisha's Ice Cream. Some of the vendors that will be there be El Centro de la Raza, Nisi's Ancestral Art, which is Native American, Federal Way Korean American Association, of course, the Multi-Service Center, Soko Culture, which is the South County Cultural Coalition. They promote and preserve culture in any city south of Seattle. Seymour Community Health Centers, of course, and Bloodworks Northwest Bloodmobile will be there. As we all know, there's shortage in blood, and they asked about being there, so the Bloodmobile will be there, just like Red, White, and Blues Festival. So some of the groups that are performing today, like I said, it's more than just food. It's a music, dance, Dance at Petra Manual. It's actually done by our folks that are doing the food truck. The PI Club Federal Way High School will be there. The Flor de Luna Latin Rock Group, big group. The Cheyenne Sela, he's a gentleman fusion of rock, hip-hop, and soul, inspired by local artists such as Ray Charles, Jimi Hendrix, and Kurt Cobain. Happy Dance Studio, Chinese dance. The Todd Beaver High School dance team. Nami Kamar, which is West African dance. The African Boys. Fresh Air. Fresh Air, that gentleman was raised in Maryland, did a lot in the East Coast, now lives in Washington. He does also hip-hop and his outlet and platform, but he also does an emphasis on using the teachings of Jesus Christ. And then, of course, the Thomas Jefferson High School drumline will start off today, performance, and then Mayor Farrell, you'll be speaking right after that. Yep. Thank you. So again, Saturday, August 18th, 11 to 5. It's going to be a great event. Again, it's our first annual. It's free, so please have everyone come attend. If you're not there all day, it's okay. We're going to have performers for the full day. They have the schedule up, and we put a lot of work into it. And I thank city staff like Jerry Lynn back there and Jessica Cox for fancy leadership and working really hard on it. But our commission alone has been doing a lot of work, and I think you're going to see that the work that's put in will be Saturday.
Great. All right, Greg, thank you very much. We'll see you on Saturday.
Thank you.
11 a.m. I'll be there. Okay, we've got another movie in the park coming up, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Steve Eichert, our Deputy Parks Director, can you give us just a brief rundown?
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, and Council. So, as you mentioned, following weekend, August 25th at 8:30 p.m. in Town Square Park also will be a movie in a park. This movie that we'll be showing, sponsored by the Parks and Recreation Division, is called Wonder. It's based on a New York Times bestseller, and it tells an inspiring and heartwarming story of August Pullman, a boy with facial differences, who entered the 5th grade for the first time in a mainstream elementary school. And it's a great movie that you and your family will enjoy. So we're inviting you to come out on a warm summer evening in the park and build lasting memories. Like the Flavor event, this is an activity more about coming together as a community with family and friends, and we just encourage everybody to come out August 25th at 8:30 p.m. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And free popcorn and
free popcorn, free movie.
Huge screen, so Thank you very much. We'll see you there. It starts at 8:30. All right, a National Night Out recap. Police Chief Andy Hwang.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, members of the council. We had another successful National Night Out community event, which was held last Tuesday. The annual event brought back a true sense of community, providing a great opportunity for police and neighbors together under positive circumstance and to take a stand against crime. Federal Way had a great showing for this national event. We had a total of 35 neighborhoods participate this year. 22 were residential neighborhoods, 12 were multifamily communities, and 1 at the town square park. There were more than 25 police department members who participated and made sure we visited each of the event sites. Our firefighters from South King Fire and Rescue also joined us to visit our residents. In addition, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, and council members also took the time to visit many of the sites in our community. Thank you for your involvement and your participation to make this year's event a complete success. Thank you very much.
Very good. All right, thank you, Chief. It was a great night. Okay, now report on community events. We had the Kiwanis Salmon Bake at Steel Lake Park on July 27th. That was fantastic. It was just a beautiful day and just a lot of folks there, and it was just idyllic. We had the Fusion event on 8/1, another just gorgeous day here in Federal Way. We've had a lot of just beautiful days. That was down in Dumas Bay, and thanks to Peggy Laporte and all that she and her organization have done for our city, and it was just another successful event for that organization. We had Friendship Day on 8/5. I'd like to say a special thanks to Sherry Edwards for her efforts in making sure that went off without a hitch, and just a great opportunity to celebrate friendship and come together. All right, now council committee reports. This is an opportunity for our committee chairpersons to give a report on just the basics of what's going through their committee. Councilmember or Chair Duclos, can you give us an update on FedRec?
Yes, last month I told you about all the things that were coming up this month in FedRec. I'm here to tell you that none of that's going to happen this month because everybody's on vacation. So we will be rescheduling everything till September, including the revenue generation meeting for this month. In a way, that's kind of good because I had wanted to get comments from people in the community, people on the chamber, especially on the revenue generation one. I want to hear from business people. So this gives them some time to meet and talk and then send their thoughts back to us too. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So the next meeting of the committee will be on September 10th at 5 p.m. in the Hylobus room. And our regular committee meeting for FedRAC will be the 4th Tuesday of the month at 4:30 in the Hylobus room.
All right, great, thank you. All right, Chair Moore, who's chair of the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, what's new at LTAC?
Well, Mr. Mayor, following that from my colleagues to the left, we also didn't have a committee meeting this coming August. It was rather hard to get everybody together because A, we didn't have quorum, and B, 2 members have left the committee. So we are...
What did you do?
It wasn't me, Mr. Mayor, I promise. And the Deputy Mayor, because I know she appointed me. So, in fact, Ryan took on another position, which is why he's not with us in this committee, Ryan Miller, who was a manager of one of our local hotels. And Jenny, who got a promotion with her company, the Marriott, Jenny Vasquez, she won't be able to serve on my committee as well. So I'll be working with Tim Johnson, our Economic Development Director, who's the staff person that oversees this committee, to identify new members. I know I connected with the Deputy Mayor earlier in case she had some ideas and thoughts and suggestions. And so, but I did have a good meeting with Mike Dunwoody to talk about activities and things that we can be doing off off-season, which means fall and spring, of what we can do to promote tourism for Federal Way. With that, I'll end my report. Thank you.
All right, great. Chair Kopeng, Chair of the Land Use and Transportation Committee.
I'll make this short. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about the good things happening in our Land Use and Transportation Committee. We've got approval, or we approved the recommendations of staff regarding the 2019 asphalt overlay program, and looking forward to that getting voted on by the full council in consent agenda. And then also, traffic relief is coming. We are going to we approved the adaptive traffic signal control authorization to bid. So anyway, for some reason there's a little bit of a gap between what I'm saying and what I'm hearing. But anyway, I apologize for this being a little broken up.
No, we can hear you loud and clear, Mark. Thank you. Okay, and then Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we had our subjugated Parks Committee meeting today for an hour. And so we talked about a recent $130,000 grant from the county for the Federal Way Community Center for senior outreach programs and building improvements. So that will be forwarded to the September 4th meeting to be voted on by council. So we also talked about, we had an update from the homelessness task force. So Yarden's been a busy man today. Thank you for that, Yarden. And we talked about the 4 subgroups for the task force. So they are state of homelessness and Federal Way, needs-based assessment, effects of homelessness in our community, and other services such as multi-tiered outreach, prevention, and intervention strategies. So for the community to know, our task force has been kind of broken down into those 4 subgroups for folks to really dig deep into the work. And so really appreciate the update, and then also the private citizens that are on the task force giving their time and energy and support towards that cause. So one thing we did discuss today was hoping to get a final report prior to our budget decisions in November. So I know Yarden will be talking to you, Mr. Mayor, about that, but hoping we can get that final report so we can make a informed decision on the budget. And with that, I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, and thank you for your work as Chair of the Parks and Public Safety Committee. Okay, now let's move on to the most important part of the evening, which is citizen comment, public comment. We all know the rules, and I'll call these out. Normally, folks get 3 minutes and less. They've specified that they have folks with them to give them a full 5 minutes. So let me give Rose Rattray, Irene Sandback, and then Margaret Nelson, and Doug Ostai, and then Dana Hawley. So, Rose, you're up.
Okay, wait, don't start the clock
got
yet.
it.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council, citizens, and all that stuff. Okay, Marwan, I didn't know you were leaving. You were retiring. I was coming here tonight to speak to you. Let me tell you, you have a wonderful bunch of people working for you. I live on 49th Place Southwest. So the men are out there working. They're doing a lot of stuff. Guess what happened yesterday? They came to my house. They put a big old truck, the whole back floor and stuff like that, put it right in front of my door. So I had to leave. So I was really nervous because I'm from New York, you know. So I said to them, I have to go out to the doctor. What am I going to do about the truck? Guess what? They moved the truck. They moved one truck over there. They moved another one. Then the flaggers came. They helped me get out. They stopped traffic. Well, there wasn't really much traffic. They stopped, helped me get out and everything. Wasn't that wonderful? They are professional. They're caring. They're concerned. Wow, they are beautiful. Thank you for that. And I'm going to miss you because you've done a lot of really good things here. And I've had a lot of chances to talk to you. So I'm happy you're going because I'm retired. It's wonderful. But I'm sorry to see you leave. Now, Mr. Mayor, City Council, all you other people, I have a problem. And you're going to tell me to take it to the Board of Education? I know we have some confidentiality issues and all that sort of stuff. I'm concerned about what provisions are we making to make sure the school system is safe. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I do.
For students and staff and all that. Don't just say go to the Board of Ed. You're the boss of the city and all you people are the boss. We need to be proactive. We need to make sure we have things in place. So, Mr. Mayor, and city council people, are you working on those issues?
Rose, as soon as you're done, I'll tell you all the work we're doing.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, hold on. So I just want everybody to know, Ray Gross, our emergency manager, who is in the event of, in case we need to activate the Greater Federal Way Emergency Operations Center, the GFW EOC, has been working hand in hand with the school district. In fact, not only have police personnel at my direction and the direction of the chief of police visited every school in the Federal Way School District to help them, and I believe it's within the city of Federal Way, if not the entire school district, but certainly all of the ones inside the city of Federal Way, to talk about protocols in case there is an active shooter and about things to make our city, our schools safer. We're working hand in glove with the school district. I've spoken with Tammy Campbell, Dr. Campbell, well over 10 times on this issue. We actually have a regional meeting, or a meeting of the Greater Federal Way Emergency Operations Center that we actually, in the Patrick Marr room in this very building, talked about that issue. They actually, and now we're going with the special schools, for each school there's going to be a protocol in place. I want to just say that I talked to Dr. Campbell about this. She called me on my cell phone last week because she wanted to say that Ray Gross had been particularly helpful in the hiring of a new security person for the school district, and it was highlighting all of the steps that they were taking. And I told her that, as not just as mayor, but as a parent of a child in the Federal Way schools, I told her thank you for all those efforts. So we're working hand in glove with the school district, daily, to ensure that if anything happens in one of those schools, that we are ready to go. And this, I just have to tell you, Tammy Campbell works on this day and night, and she's all over this, but so are we. And so I think I would just say that you're absolutely right. It's not just the school district, it's us. And if anything happens, it's our police officers are going to respond, and they're going to get there and do everything we can. But the most important thing is that there are protocols in place where people know what to do. And that's really what Dr. Campbell, I should say, what Dr. Campbell wanted to do is make sure that every school had a very, very simple, understandable thing. What if the principal's not there? What if and making sure that there is redundancy and crossover and that kind of thing. And so Ray Gross and our police department and the school district are working hand in hand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, Irene.
Okay, I'm here on behalf of my neighborhood. I live on 6th Avenue Southwest, and we've had traffic problems for 30 years. Okay, so I've been here in Federal Way since 1990, and I tried to get speed bumps on our road when my son was 6 years old. Okay, he's 32 now, and I did go to the city. I believe the traffic engineer, his name was Mr. Sahid, and we passed all that was necessary then. And he told me to call the fire department, and he said the fire department didn't want speed bumps on our road, but our neighborhoods have become very complex. They've been subdivided. We have so much more traffic, and then the street next to us got speed bumps, but we are a major thoroughfare to the back neighborhoods. And we have people going 80 miles an hour down our road. I seem to live on the smallest part of the road because the city widened that road, or King County widened it. But the most important thing is I'm trying to protect our new neighborhood with all the new children, because we have children now. It used to be an old neighborhood. And I want to protect all those people. We have a school bus, and I'd like to thank Eric Preston for all his help doing all the studies that were necessary. And I believe that we passed the criteria to get these speed bumps, but I believe that your okay is necessary. That's what I've been told. He's done most of all the footwork. They've put out the graphics, and I think we passed, but I would just love this to happen in my neighborhood because I couldn't do it for my own son, but I'd like to do it for all the new children that live in our neighborhood, because we live right across the street from a bus stop, and nobody seems to care. All the people that live behind us, they just think this is the thoroughfare to their lifestyle. And so I would really appreciate it if you could help us and get this done. And I'd really like to thank Eric Preston and all his engineers, if, you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Actually, I just drove through your neighborhood and just drove through that street today. I wanted to take a look at it. Marwan, would you give an update?
Yes, Mayor. This particular item went to the LUTC committee, and it was approved by the committee, and it's before you under consent agenda for approval. So as soon as the council approve it, we'll go ahead and proceed with the construction of those speed humps.
All right, perfect timing, Irene. Thank you very much for coming. Margaret Nelson.
How do you do? Good evening, council and Mr. Mayor. I read the entire Quiet Skies report, every single page, and if people are interested in reading it, they can even go to the library and run it off for free as part of their King County Library card. I thought it was an excellent report in every way because it gives some alternatives to problems that we've got that are well thought out and are possible to complete. So because of that, I would like to encourage the council to look at this as a long game. I'm thrilled to hear that you're not just going to do this and then say, okay, now we're going to move on to this. Because this is a war between us and the Port of Seattle. They don't recognize that we exist. And we need to protect our health, our safety, and even our economy here by having some kind of mitigations, particularly in the health department. I'd also like to tell you that I was very disappointed that the Port of Seattle has got this opportunity to put in input on the environmental scoping that started July 30th and will end September 28th. And as of last week, they didn't have a website on their website where people could go to fill out the little form. I spent some time on the phone and found it. So if you go to SAMP, environmentalairreview.org, and scroll down to what should be studied, you too can fill out the form online and tell the port that you're interested in things like increased noise, light particulate and other pollutants, the low altitude of planes flying overhead, the controllers directing flights straight over Federal Way, and other things until September 28th. And I wish that the city would put that on the website too. I don't know where Yarden is.
Other side.
Yeah. I think it should be on your website too, that's an opportunity. But again, I'd like to compliment the people that wrote the technical report because I thought it was clear. And I can't tell you, I'm a technical scientist myself, how impressed I was by reading it. And I really, really hope that we continue to use this for the long game because this isn't going to end next week or next year.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret. Okay, Doug Ostad. And Yarden, will you please make sure that's done? I just talked to Tyler about getting that date, if it's not already done. Just get that date added to the website. All right, Doug? Sir?
Ostby is the last name.
Yes, sir.
Yes. First thing is cell phones. Here a few months ago, it was on the news, you know, that the police are going to crack down on cell phones. That's a bunch of malarkey. There's more cell phones used now. Every time you come to a light, look around. People are sitting there texting, talking on their phones. That don't mean nothing to them. They had to put a $500 fine first time and $5,000 the next time. Okay. As far as airplanes, I understood there was a 2 3/4% glide pattern. Is that what it was?
Yep, 2 3/4. Yep.
Okay. I've been in Fife and looked, and there's planes, 747s, mostly big planes, that I don't think they're over 3,000 feet there. They got their wheels down, they got their flaps down. So what do you do when you do that? Push the throttles ahead, make more noise, and they're flying like this. They're not coming down like this. This is not a glide pattern. And a third thing is the street where it splits off towards Costco off 99 Pacific Highway. Been working on that for over a year now. I swear to God, I could have done that with a pick and shovel by now.
You and me both, Doug.
And whoever decided to keep it from going a nice cut into 99, they made a curve there. Whoever did that should rethink the process, because I was stopped at the light going north, right there. Here come a semi with a 40-foot trailer. He took up 3.5 lanes to get around that corner. Something is wrong with the thinking on that. That should have been left the way it was.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a bad,
that's it.
All right, thank you, Doug.
it's a bad turn.
Yeah. All right, Dana Holloway.
Coming out of Costco, coming back up, it's a virtue.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the members of Quiet and Healthy Skies for the report they did. It's obvious they put in a lot of hard work and research, and I encourage every citizen of Federal Way and its surrounding communities, if you want to know anything about airplane noise and pollution and a third runway, etc., read the report. It's on the Federal Way website. And it is technical, and I think we really need to understand that. I'm anxious to see what the next steps will be, Mayor and City Council, implementing some of the recommendations of the committee. It's more than just noise, like we've all said. It's the impact to our health and to our property values of our homes. The task force has done their part, and now it's time for the city to do their part. I've talked to people, and most of them don't know what to do, how to fight it. They don't know what information is out there. So I'd like to make a suggestion to the city that they create someplace on the website, Tyler, wherever you are, that specifically for airplane noise or the quiet and healthy skies, where residents can go specifically to know what they can do. So citizens can be mobilized and provide them with clear action that they can take with current information. I know that I'm on the Quiet Skies of Puget Sound Facebook page only because that's where I find the information I need. I would really like to be able to go to my city web page and say, oh, the Highline Forum is this date, or the, what's it called? Port of Seattle Commissioners meeting is that day. And I have to look at a bunch of different sources to find that. If I could go to one source and it was on our website, that would be wonderful. And also making the dates, locations, agendas with links to those type of meetings. And also, what actions can people take? Because I see emails, I've gotten a couple from some of the task force members. Frequently, when there's legislation that's going on, or there's action because of like the scoping, maybe there should be some emailing being done to our legislatures, whether it's state or U.S. It'd be nice to have that on there. Like there's something going on right now where the airline pilots are trying to tell the FAA or the port that they don't need to do something, and we want them to do it. And so if we don't, as a citizens, say, no, wait a second, don't do that any longer, they won't hear us. So help us help you guys. Thank you very much for everything you did.
All right, thank you, Dana. Lori Sechrist, and then Lamont Stiles, and then Scott Henderson. And then I don't have any other pink sheets. So if anybody has any pink sheets, please turn them in.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council, City staff, neighbors, and all our fine citizens here. My name is Lori Sechrist, proud president of the Save Weyerhaeuser Campus Grassroots Organization. So this next week marks our second anniversary of the formation of the Save Weyerhaeuser Campus Organization, and I thank you all for what is now 2 years of listening to me up here. And the amazing support of so many of you. Needless to say, the second year was exponentially greater than the first. Part of our successes during 2018 was when the Washington State Legislature approved the $750,000 for grant writing and other acquisition-related work for Forterra. We've been keeping them very busy to ensure that they earn every penny of that grant. Every door that we walk through opens up another one. We have met with all the major state and city and county agencies such as the DOT, the DOE, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the Army Corps of Engineers to learn about their processes and to be the voice to ensure that they are all doing their proper due diligence with the IRG applications. We are willing and able and ready to open every door necessary to bring awareness of our cause. We are confident that there will be a solution that serves not only the needs of IRG, but the needs and the desires of the citizens of Federal Way. We deserve better than being surrounded by 1.2 million square feet of warehouses and over 800 semi-trucks clogging our roads. Our most recent success was now being recognized by the IRS as a 501c3 organization. So our fundraising efforts have been kicked up a notch. And meeting with former Weyerhaeuser executives and others around the region who are supporting us in our efforts to preserve this legacy has gotten much, much easier. The Save Weyerhaeuser Campus organization is proud of its accomplishments over the past 24 months, and we will continue to be steadfast in what we defined as our mission now 2 years ago, which I will remind you again, is to protect the west shoreline of North Lake, the Rhodey Garden, and the bonsai collection, preserving the wildlife habitat and the crucial watershed lands, the forests, the meadows, and the campus, as well as its trails and public access to them, and maintaining the character of the campus. Our vision for this land is still as clear as it was 2 years ago, one that is centered on a healthy living with open space serenity for our fast-growing urban region, amongst development that brings economic and healthy lifestyle benefits to our community with buildings of premium design that mesh with this historic landscape. This campus has repeatedly been recognized by city, county, state governments as an urban green space with historically significant buildings worthy of preservation. We must not just imagine what this campus can or should be. We must put into action an alternative plan to warehouses that uses the existing footprint of the campus and provides IRG a favorable return on its investment that could forever preserve the campus's forest, meadows, and trails. An alternative plan is within our reach. Forterra is ready. Save Weyerhaeuser Campus is ready. The support of citizens from across the region are ready to do the right thing, to continue the Weyerhaeuser legacy of this campus as being of something of beauty, significance, and value. So all of you, mayor, deputy mayor, council, and staff, play a key role in protecting this legacy. It's not just Weyerhaeuser's legacy, it is all of ours. So are you ready to do the right thing? We must save this gem for our community and the region for many generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, Lamont Stiles, and he's speaking for 5 individuals, so 5 minutes, please. In the future, Lamont, will you please write out the 5 members? So.
Will do.
Thanks.
Peace and blessings, all praise to the Most High and the ancestors that gave me the strength to be here. Respect to all my fellow citizens that came up here to voice their issues and whatnot. So basically, I got a few things that I'd like to talk about real quickly. I'd like to start with the Homeless Task Force report. Basically, to echo what Councilman Johnson said as far as the budget and the fact that the report comes out after the budget's going to be decided on. So if there's going to be anything that we're going to have to allot to the Homeless Task Force, it's not going to be addressed right then. So it just makes more sense to try to at least get that in, to discuss that before the budget part. The Violence Prevention Task Force recommendations, and using the talent that we have here in Federal Way. I've been in a lot of little different meetings as far as addressing the youth and what the youth are looking for in Federal Way, and we're just wondering like where the city is as far as like the recommendations and if they're going to actually try to put anything behind the recommendations, and actually we have people in the community that are already doing work and working with youth and partnering with them and using the talent that we have here in Federal Way. The citizen right here just talked about stopping the violence and protecting our youth in the schools, and it starts with the relationships and the core grassroots of knowing what is going on in our schools, being proactive, not just reactive, and knowing our children and what they need. Overwhelmingly, these kids that came out and they said that they don't feel safe in the schools. I think that is almost impossible to think that the police is going to protect them, because the kids that we're talking about, they know what's going on. And the thing of it is if I say something about this kid, I still have to walk home. I've actually had situations where kids have gotten into it with another kid and they have came to me like, what do I do? And I'm like, you got to go across the street to the transit. How do you get there? You know, the police is not going to escort them. So we need to have a serious conversation in our schools about a lot of issues, bullying, why these kids are feeling the way that they're feeling, and they really are reaching out and asking. And we've had a youth forum, and they've overwhelmingly came out and asked for certain things. So with the violence prevention task force, I know part of that, I think they had like a youth component to that. So just really reaching out to these community-based organizations, and such as Pure, which Elon and Mo, they are volunteering in Todd Beamer right now. Braylon James with Grineville, Phenomenal She, they were just here dealing with young females, the game of life, which this and Coach Risco and Winston Bell that deal with at-risk youth. These are people that are right here, homegrown, right here in Federal Way, that are doing things, and they're volunteering. I volunteered. So, I mean, to say that we don't have the resources to actually, the school district, that's what they do. They hire the community pretty much. I think like they're probably like, besides Weyerhaeuser, they were like the #1 employer in the city. So definitely looking at the talent that we have around us, and dealing with helping out with this issue. Shout out to Marwan. I don't really know you, but everybody they've had a lot of good things to say about you, so I wish that I knew you better. And who's going to replace you, man? What X-Man are we going to get to, come in here and do the work that you did, you know what I'm saying? So definitely shout out to you. The flight patterns effects, we definitely, with the UFPs, like the health issue, as well as the overflying, the noise issue and things of that nature. The health issue is one of the biggest things that comes to my mind. And if it is, according to your report, if it's just that easy that they can not hit Federal Way, then why is it such a big issue that they can just, and then on top of that, I mean, the port, if you looked at the channel, they support, we got a nice commercial about Federal Way and building up Federal Way and stuff, so they must be putting some money somewhere. So, we're supporting them, and that brings me to this. Who we support, if we're supporting the port and we're not getting what we're supposed to get out of it as a city, if we're supporting the light rail and we're not getting what we're supposed to get out of it as a city, I'm worried that our leadership is not looking out for us. And it just seems like that's the deal, that we're in a lot of deals that's not helping the citizens of Federal Way. And how do we hold the city accountable as far as that? Because it's evident that we're in SCORE. I didn't even get a chance to talk about SCORE, but it's a lot of issues, and we would like to talk to you guys about it, not just public comment, but a dialogue.
All right, thank you, Lamont. All right, Scott Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor Farrell. City Council, I appreciate you guys giving me some time here. I'll introduce my good friend Tim Hay. He's the Vision Director at the Federal Way National Little League. I'm here on behalf of the Federal Way National Little League. Okay.
Go ahead.
Anyway, I'm here. I'm Scott Henderson. I'm here on behalf of the Federal Way National Little League. And the reason I'm here today, we are a 501c3 organization that has supported youth in our community for about 30 years. If you've driven past Winco on the way to the Aquatic Center, you've driven by our facility a few times. I've seen it, right? And I'm really blessed that I came up after Lamont here, because to hear people in the community like this, supporting youth and getting involved, like that's what we need. We need more people like you, Lamont, and And I can tell you that I'm really proud to have been involved with the Little League over the years, because that's what we do. We help give kids purpose. We bring them in and we give them an opportunity to play ball and to have friends and relationships, to connect with their community in ways that are positive, because they could be doing a lot of other things. And so it's something I'm really, really proud of. But I just want to tell a little story. We've been around for 30 years. We are a 21.5 acre facility that is privately owned. That is unique in the Little League world. Most of the Little Leagues across the United States, they lease, they have leases with municipalities and counties and that sort of thing, but they don't control their own fate. We do. We are one of the few privately owned Little Leagues left, in the nation. And that's really unique. And what happened was, a few years ago, we were falling apart. Our backstops were falling over. It was getting bad. It was getting bad because we don't get tax dollars, right? We have to do all this stuff on our own, volunteer work. So what happened was that we reached out to the King County, and we found a grant called YSFG, which is now called YASG. And we applied for that grant, and that grant required cooperation from the city. In fact, a 1/2 of a 1/2 match, which is $18,750. We came to the city at that time and we said, you know what? We've been around a long time doing good things for the community, and we'd like you to match that 100%, $75,000. Mayor Jim Farrell was on the city council at that time, and he was one of the most important swing votes we had to get that $75,000. At that point, you guys became investors in our league, and since then, some incredible things have happened. We have a lot more that we need to do. So right now, we are traveling at light speed towards a shovel-ready set of projects, but we need your help. What we need your help is with a couple of different things. Identifying organizations that you work with that involve financially challenged communities of color, non-English speaking communities, and that sort of thing that we can partner with. And we also need the partnership of the city, because we have some challenges with our league with regards to its use. So we are already dialing up surveys. We're getting fee schedules for surveys and design work. We are making some really, really good progress. But we do need the city to partner with us because of some issues with rights and usage of our facilities because of easements. These are all Lake Haven Utility District easements in and around our property that, yeah. So I talked to, I'm sorry, Mr. Salloum?
Right.
Yeah, earlier. He's going to, EJ, they're going to help us out with this. But we do need your partnership and your support. And I want to thank you for what you've done for us, Mr. Farrell, in the past. And Mr. Mayor, and I just thank you so much.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for your years and years of work. We really appreciate it. We all look forward to opening day, and with all those hundreds of kids at opening day of Federal Way National Little League, and it is just amazing. My own little guy did a T-ball there, who's one of the bulls. Yeah. And I was just a tremendous experience. We get to see him.
Did he run to third base the first time?
Pretty much, exactly.
Oops, got to go to first.
That's right. That's right. Thing, so thank you. And so my understanding is both EJ and Marwan are running herd on this.
I've talked to Doc Hansen. We got the pre-application process rolling. We're barreling forward. So
okay.
Need your support though.
Thank you very much. I'll talk to EJ and Marwan and make sure we get the. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, I got another pink sheet. Nathaniel Cook. And then, John, were you going to? Okay. We'll get your pink sheet after you talk. Okay. After Nathaniel Cook, we'll get John Reesing. Nathaniel, thank you for coming back. I sent you an email after your last appearance.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Come on up.
Sweet. Sweet. Thank you for that, Mayor. I didn't get the email.
Oh, okay. I'll check to see if it's the right one.
Shoot. Well, then, yeah. Then I don't need.
Well, go ahead. Come on.
Okay. All right. Just advocating for the homeless. Yeah.
I totally threw you off. Let's hit the restart button. Sorry, Nathaniel.
Sorry, yeah.
Take two.
I didn't know you. Okay, cool. The mayor emailed me. So I'm advocating for homeless men and women. Yeah. I'm working. I guess I'm advocating for the homeless men and women at work, but have like financial barriers, so we still can't get in a place. But the William J. Wood building down the street, they let me see a unit, and so maybe I'm gonna get in there, but I don't. like I needed to do like some social security verification. I went to the social security office to do that, but they're still like they let me see the unit and everything, but they didn't like let us move in.
Okay.
Like, so I went up with my son. So they didn't, but yeah. So I don't know. You did. I'm curious what you wrote in the email.
I'll make sure it gets re-forwarded. Number one, thank you for your service to our country. And I think when you spoke at the last meeting, several of us wanted to talk to you, and then you had left after.
Yeah, I got nervous.
I know. And the first time I spoke at a council meeting, I forgot to say my name. So I get it. So would you do me a favor? As soon as you get done talking, can you talk? Yarden over here is gonna come talk to you, and we want to see what we can do about helping you out with the William J. Wood situation. We all want to help. We appreciate your service to our country. That's exactly why that facility is there.
Yeah.
And everybody up here wants to help. And I'll make sure I've got the right email address and re-forward that to you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming back.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, John Reesing.
Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. So the ultrafine question, I'll start with that since that was posed. The advisory committee for the University of Washington study on ultrafines is meeting tomorrow afternoon. I have not seen any data yet, but is expected that preliminary data will be shown to us tomorrow, and a series of questions are being posed to us that strongly suggest that they've got some significant information there. So that's the status of the ultrafine. I think it relates directly to the port's scoping activity that's going on right now that has been reported as, started on July 28th and concludes here in September. My observation is that with the delivery of the task force report, the city now needs to create their comments on that scoping. I can't tell you how critical I believe it is that commenting on the scoping is innovative and aggressive. It addresses health as other topics as well. And so my request to the council is that you adopt a resolution requesting the Port of Seattle to extend that comment period for no less than 60 days. It is an insult to the communities that they can drop such a project after having taken months and months, more than 18 months, where they couldn't answer the task force questions about that process, and then limit commenting period to such a short period of time, particularly with the city intending to get some professional help, I understand, to address that scoping activity. And it is in that scoping activity that you are going to win or lose the game. The second thing is that the retreat of council, I challenged the council to organize themselves and to address the question of how to cooperate with the other adjacent cities. It is evident from the comments we've seen here tonight that that still is a topic that is unresolved and is absolutely critical. I think that the council should expect that if they're really addressing the issues that are in front of us right now, that you will have at least one resolution on the agenda for every meeting over the next 9 months. as this process goes forward. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'll follow up. I'm going to have Yarden follow up with you in regard to suggestions for the resolution. But number one, in regard to a letter requesting to extend the comment period, I'll talk to Yarden about that, and we may very well be able to get that letter out this week requesting that action, just to make sure. I am concerned about the truncated and the short period, and I think that's spot on. Yarden, did you? Would you come to the podium so you can be heard and be part of the public record? John, I pretty much agree that I think, that we need to, I'm very concerned about the scoping aspect of it.
I think it's important, Mr. Mayor, that the power of the council be lodged on this request, contemplating the potentiality for future litigation that might be in the offering. And that's why I didn't suggest a mayor letter request, but rather framed it as a councilmatic legislative decision to request the extension. There's no reason we can't do both.
Right. Thank you very much. Yarden?
I was just going to say that in the casual conversations I've had with a potential professional consultant, she did say it would be good to participate in the scoping. I mean, she did say she felt it was more important next year. That was her opinion, but she did feel it would be a very good thing. It would help a lot to participate. And she also suggested that we could just ask for a extension of the time. She suggested that as well. So that was one of the things I was going to look at. And I actually have a meeting set with Doc Hansen, who's here, and several others who are experts in the city to discuss how we go forward with this consultant potentially.
All right. We do have, while it sounds easy, we don't have it on our agenda today, and I've got a solution for this, but the OPMA, the Open Public Meetings Act, prohibits a collective action by the council without, that occurs outside the presence of the public. Signing a joint letter without actually council action would violate the OPMA, unless we have a motion tonight that would welcome that. Ryan?
Yeah, this is a regular council meeting, so council can take any action that it wants to tonight.
By motion.
By motion.
That's right. So I would be open to a motion by a member, by a council member, on the point that Mr. Reesing brings up about expanding public comment on the scoping for the SAM.
I would like to move.
And I'll second that.
Well, wait a second, I'm finished, but that's okay. I would like to.
Okay, Councilmember Duclos first.
I would like to move that we expand the time on the scoping things. So, what was it you wanted, John? Tell me.
60 days.
60 days?
Yep.
Minimum of 60 days regarding the scoping thing for the airport expansion program.
And I'll second that.
All right, and we've got the record should reflect multiple seconds.
Mayor, can we, I just want to clarify the motion. It was moved to expand the scope, and we don't have that
To send a
authority.
letter.
To send a
a collective
Yes.
letter of council on that
Right.
point.
Signed by every member, signed by the members of the council that would be so inclined to sign that letter. This would address, just in regard to comment, it would address any kind of OPMA, the Public Meetings Act, to ensure that what we do is not in violation of that act. All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that point? About
Mayor Farrell?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. So this letter, you would write a letter and send it, and council would write a letter and send it?
No, it would be signed by myself and the council, just like we do with these proclamations.
Okay. So when the letter is written, can you let us see it so that we can read it before it is sent?
No letter will be sent without every member of the council assenting to its content.
All right, great. Thank you.
We wouldn't do that. Okay, thank you, but thanks for checking. Okay, Councilmember Johnson?
Oh, no,
okay.
I was
just
going to say aye.
Hot mic. All right. All right, anybody else? John, thank you. That's a great recommendation. Okay, is there any further discussion? There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, and motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Mark.
And I'll draft a letter tomorrow.
All right, and then let's make sure that everybody on the council sees it.
Right.
Okay, great. Is there anybody else who'd like to make public comment? I was on the council for 10 years. I've been mayor now 4.5 years. I don't think I've ever had a situation where we had somebody come in at a council meeting and it prompted a motion and and something like that. So, John, you kind of moved the needle tonight, so good job. All right, you guys, that's now moving on. No one else wishes to comment? All right. All right. Now, moving on to the consent agenda. These items have gone through council committee, and I'll go ahead and read the items. If any council member wishes to pull an item for separate and individual consideration, I'll ask after I read them. Item A, the minutes for the July 17th regular and special meetings. Item B, the monthly financial report for June 2018. Item C, vouchers, June 2018. Item D, Track Recreation Management System. Item E, the 2019 Asphalt Overlay Program preliminary project list and authorization to bid. Item F, Enterprise 18 NTS 6th Avenue Southwest, that's Southwest 356th Street to Southwest 368th Street. Item G, Resolution, Solid Waste and Recycling Collection Services Procurement Process. Item H, Adaptive Control Signal Control System Phases 1 and 2, Authorization for Bids and Proposals. Item I, Performing Arts and Event Center Project Acceptance. Item J, Performing Arts and Event Center Authorization to Bid Production Lighting Fixtures Acquisition. Council, are there any particular items that a council member would ask for separate consideration?
Yes, I'd like to pull item G.
Item G.
Resolution for solid waste recycling collection service procurement process.
Okay, item G is pulled. Council, any other items? All right. And Deputy Mayor, do you have a motion with respect to items A through F and H through J?
Yes, I do. I move approval of items A through F and items H through J.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. All right. All right, unanimous approval. Now, moving on to item G, Councilmember Duclos.
Yeah, I would just like to add as a part of the procurement process that there be a survey of all the people in the city about what's going on and if they want that, or I want to get their opinion since they're the ones that pay for waste management services. I'd like them to tell us what they want us to do. If they want us to go out and look at other companies, or if they're very comfortable with the one that they have and they want to stick with it. This should be their decision, not ours.
Okay. Let me hold on for a second. Marwan or EJ?
Yeah, Mayor, as part of our presentation to the Land Use Committee, we were able to, and based on the feedback from the Mayor and Council, part of the acquisition process or part of the solicitation for a proposal process, we will be conducting a survey of all of the citizens of Federal Way. Now, the survey is not if they like the existing service or they want to change a hauler. The survey would be to ask the citizen of Federal Way what additional service they desire to have. How do they like the existing service, and is there any modification could be done to the existing service that's being provided under the existing contract? Based on that feedback, we'll be coming back to the council in an executive session, giving a presentation as the feedback we have received from the community. So part of that request for proposal, we are definitely going to go through that process, and the council will get some feedback as to what the citizen desire as additional service needed or modification to the existing service that's being provided.
All right. So there will be reach out to the public. Thank you.
I just want to make sure it's not biased in the way it's reached out in the questioning, because I know surveys can be slanted one way or another. I want to make sure it's neutral and non-biased.
That's the intent of the survey. It's not to be biased. It's mainly to solicit information from the citizen and report that information to the council in an executive session.
All right. Councilmember Moore.
Marwan, thank you for enlightening us with that. I'll be just pretty blunt, and that's I'm curious to get the results. I I personally don't see a reason to change. I think Waste Management has done a really good job with the City of Federal. I think during catastrophic times, they've been extremely responsive. And I'm not saying that you guys are advocating for change. I know you guys are just wanting to see what's out there, and I respect that. A quick question is there an opportunity for council to kind of play a role in maybe modifying or adding a question or two? Is that feasible or no?
I mean, part of the presentation that will be given the council at the study session, definitely the council will set some policy for us. As to the existing service, what we do is we have a contract that started about 17 years ago. And what we are trying to do is find out, and definitely Waste Management would be one of those contractor who's going to be submitting a proposal. And they may be at a major advantage because they have done it for the last 17 years. So we are not trying to exclude them. What we are trying to do is make sure that the contract we have today, the only option available to us is for us to rebid it, or ask for a proposal from everybody and evaluate the proposal, or sit down with the table, at the table with Waste Management and negotiate. We have done that about 10 years ago, and the cost for the city was about 17% increase. So our recommendation to the council and to the mayor was for us to test the market, find out where we are, and definitely Waste Management will have great advantage because they've been the hauler for the city further away for the last 17 years. And we're going to be able to review all of the proposal, and the council ultimately have to make the decision because they have to award the contract. So we'll be coming back to you at multiple stages seeking some input.
But just to clarify, if that's okay, but can we play a role, or is there an opportunity for us to see if we can add a question or two to the survey when it goes out to the public?
We'll be more than happy to share some of the survey with the council if that's the mayor's desire, and at least share with you some of those questions. The only thing I want to make sure that the council realize or understand that we are not favoring one contractor over others. What we are doing is we're asking the community what kind of service they desire, what additional service they would like to see, what part of the existing service they would like to modify, and what part of the existing service they would like to eliminate. And we are able to eliminate it without violating some requirement that we must have that service, then the council will be able to give us some feedback based on the survey, and that's what we're going to do. I mean, we would not go out soliciting proposal till we are completed the survey and came to the council for some policy feedback.
I think what we're saying is we'd like to see the survey before it goes out.
Right. Yeah, of course.
We could definitely do that.
Thank
Will do.
you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Anyone, any other questions?
Mayor Farrell?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Honda, and then Councilmember Tran.
I was just going to add that if the council could see the survey before it goes out, that would be the answer to the question that has been asked, so that we can see what questions are being asked if we want to add anything to the survey.
Okay. It's a good idea. We'll do that. All right. Thank you. Okay. And Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that from the business perspective, I would be in support of us open up this contract to other contractors. That is the only way we can, find the cheaper, perhaps, rate for the resident of the city. So, for the record, I do support that.
I'm going to disagree with that. I think the citizens are the ones that are going to tell us whether they want cheaper service or if they're happy with what they want. That's why I want the citizens of this city to tell us what they want us to do.
Can I make a comment?
Councilmember Kopang.
Yeah, I appreciate the concern that Councilmember Duclos is expressing about the involvement of the community in this process, and I certainly believe they will have that opportunity to speak numerous times. But I think it's important for us as a council to recognize that, you know, as part of an ongoing contractual obligation to this, I mean, as in serving the city, we need to look at contracts on a regular basis. And in the case of Waste Management, while they've done an excellent job, and I don't think there's anybody that's complaining about their services, we don't know if they are competitive at this point. We don't know where the market is. And for us to say, well, they've been here and we're going to continue to support them without testing the market and without understanding where the market truly is at this point in time and what services are available that we might not know about, I don't think that's a good service to our city. I think that the public will have plenty of time and plenty of opportunities to weigh in on this with the process as it's currently laid out.
I hope so. That's what I want, the public involved.
All right.
Mayor Farrell,
Deputy Mayor Honda?
how will the public get the survey and how will they know about the survey?
Marwan, EJ?
The discussion so far has been to put it on the city's website and then link it through social media, and also figure out a way to more broadly broadcast it to the residents through zip codes. But the intent is to do it online and be hosted through the city website. And from a technology perspective, that's something we can do and have done in the past.
Okay.
What about some people that can't get it online? Would they be able to come in here and get it, or could they ask for it to be mailed to them?
Yeah, and we can certainly make paper copies available. The conversation has been to host it through the city website.
I understand that, but there
yes.
are a lot of seniors out there that don't go online, or there are some people that don't have access to that stuff. So I think we need to make it real easy for people to get.
Sure, so we can certainly have paper copies at the front counter or at the library. That's certainly feasible.
Perhaps we could put something in the Federal Way Mirror that there's a survey that we're asking for people's concerns and questions and suggestions, so that they know to go to the website or to the library or to City Hall.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think that we're necessarily asking, I mean, the business decision to go out for bid, I don't foresee that we're going to be asking the public, should we go out to bid? I think the question, the larger question is, have you been satisfied? What we want to know is, have you been satisfied? What are the sort of the other services? And that's, obviously, we're going to be making the business decision about whether to go out to bid. I just want to make sure that there's a clear expectation in regard to content of this. And we're going to do that. We're going to show it to council. We'll get it out in every manner possible.
That's all I want, is the citizens to be able to tell us what they're doing.
Very good. You got anything? Okay. With that, Councilmember Duclos, do you have a motion? Yeah, you pulled it off. Or I could ask, would you like me to ask? Deputy Mayor Honda, do you have a motion?
I move approval of item G on the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, matter passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Good discussion. All right, council business. Item A, authorization to apply for the Seattle Aquarium Youth Ocean Advocates Grant Fund, Storming the Sound with Salmon High School Program Development Project. First, we'll have a staff report from Catherine Strauss, our Surface Water Public Education and Outreach Coordinator, and then we'll go from there.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. As you said, I'm here to ask for authorization tonight to apply for the Seattle Aquarium's Youth Ocean Advocates Grant Fund. The policy question before you tonight is, should City Council authorize swim staff to apply for the Seattle Aquarium's Youth Ocean Advocates Grant Fund and to accept those funds if awarded? The Youth Ocean Advocates Grant Fund is sponsored by the Seattle Aquarium, and it's a program that provides small grants of $1,000 to $2,000 to projects or programs that conserve or support recovery of endangered marine species and the habitats on which they depend. And this year, of particular interest are programs that support the conservation of salmon. So the reason I'm here tonight in front of you instead of in front of LUTC is just a matter of timing. We were made aware of this grant opportunity after the August LUTC, and the deadline to apply for it, August 21st, is before September LUTC. So I'm here in front of you tonight, and the notification to grant recipients is going out on Thursday, August 30th, and funds will be dispersed by September 13th. We, if awarded, plan to use the grant funds to expand the Storming the Sound with Salmon program to make it more relevant to high school students in federally public schools through a water quality monitoring project in their local watersheds. And we plan on using the funds to purchase the water quality monitoring equipment. And so we will be asking for $1,740 to cover the cost of that equipment. And I also just have a little snippet of a video to show you about our Storming the Sound with Salmon program. The video is 6 minutes long, but I'm just going to show you 1 minute of it. And the intended audience for it is teachers and administrators in the district who may not be sure what the program entails or may have hesitations about participating. And so this video was made with them in mind.
Water runoff and to help them edit. So today is super exciting because we are getting our compost salmon eggs from the fish hatchery. And from today on, the kids get to watch them develop until they're released in May. So you know what we're doing this afternoon? What are we going to do this afternoon? Yeah, we're going to watch them bring the eggs, the salmon eggs, this afternoon. So are we ready to go down there? Yeah. Okay. The program's called Storming the Sound. It's a great way to build awareness in our community through our students about stormwater runoff and to help them understand the relationship that that has in our community to keeping the environment healthy. This program is awesome. The curriculum is super easy to follow. You get a binder with lessons that are already prepared to go, and the tank maintenance is pretty minimal, but the engagement of the students is super high.
So sorry about the sound quality, but you get the idea. We're really proud of this program and want to continue to see it expand. So the options to be considered tonight are to authorize swim staff to apply for this grant and to accept the funds if awarded, or do not authorize swim staff to apply for the grant. And it was the mayor's recommendation to move forward with option 1 for approval.
All right. Councilor Duclos, do you have a question?
No.
Oh, just hot mic. Okay. All right. Council, any other questions? All right. Councilmember Kopang, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do. I move to authorize the swim staff to apply for the Youth Ocean Advocates Grant Fund.
Second.
Second.
All right. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Matter passes. Catherine. I know. There's a little bit of a time delay. That's why we're laughing, Mark. Catherine, great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, now, you know what, we've got 15 minutes to go before 10 o'clock, but why don't we just go ahead and take care of it now. Councilor Moore, do you have a motion about going past 10 p.m.?
Yes, I'd like to move that we extend the meeting past 10 p.m.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second to proceed past 10 p.m. if necessary. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we're safe. All right, now.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Honda?
Both Councilmember Kopang and I, it's already past 10 o'clock.
Oh, that's right. but you don't constitute a quorum, and so the quorum's on this side. So, but thank you for the technicality. I like that. All right, very good. Okay, and actually, thank you. 2 hours ahead of us is 11. You guys are almost midnight there, so thank you very much for your dedication and your service, for the commitment of your time while you're on vacation to doing important business back there with a new grandchild to be on the phone with us. Appreciate it. Okay, second reading and enactment on item A under ordinances. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 742, amending Title 19, Federal Revised Code related to self-service storage facilities and design guidelines. An ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, relating to design guidelines for self-service storage facilities, repealing Federal Way Revised Code 19.215.130, and adding a new section to Chapter 19.115, Federal Way Revised Code.
All right, Councilmember Kopang.
In my discussions with Doc Hansen, he had mentioned the need to clarify the provision about using a window-like material in place of windows. Has that been added to this?
Doc?
It has not yet been added to this, and that was the purpose of me being here, to clarify that. If you wish me to go forward, Mayor, Council.
You've got the next item, right? The first and second reading of the termination of the moratorium?
Right.
Well, Mark, is that, do you need that before you make the motion on this enactment?
No, I think, based on my understanding, there was a little bit of confusion around the ordinance and the PowerPoint presentation. In the PowerPoint presentation, the recommendation was from staff was to, which I wholeheartly agreed with, was to use a glass alternative in place of transparent glass that is actually functional as a window for design purposes. And so I think it's important for the council to understand if we're going forward with the provision as it's currently written, it would require the self-storage units to have transparent glass that is actually functional as a window. And I don't think that was the intent. And that was in my discussion with Doc prior to and after the Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting that we have that it'd be good to get that into this ordinance based on the way it was presented to the council in the PowerPoint presentation.
Are you adding that, Councilmember Kopang, to add that?
Doc, that's certainly something to be considered. I think that for the council to make sure that we are actually approving something that we all agree is accurate. So, Doc, if you could go through the process, I think it would be helpful for the council before we make a vote. I can certainly amend the motion to incorporate any changes if the council is amenable to those changes.
If I may, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council, one of the things that I understood when we were discussing this on the first reading, there was a lot of discussion. There was a number of discussions regarding, including reflective material in place of glass if that's what the developer wished to do, because the purpose of the design change was to give it a glass finish. There was no motion to add that in, and the reason I suggested to Council Member Kopang and also several other council members is that on the second reading, because there was no mention of this, that it be brought to your attention in case you wanted to bring this within the ordinance itself. I had talked to City Council, and they had indicated to me that this was necessary in order to add this to the second reading. In specific language, what was suggested was that on item 2, it now reads, 19.115.0502 was presented on first reading as at least 40% of each floor of any principal facade located along a right-of-way must contain transparent glass. At the last presentation, I'd indicated that could be material which emulated glass, and there was no discussion of that. That's why I brought it to the attention of several council members and also to the council. They advised me and indicated that this language had to be added since it was not added the first time, and my purpose here tonight is to indicate to you, or just to find out, and I mentioned to the mayor, to find out if you intended to have that. If that is the case, then in addition to that language which says must contain transparent glass, you can add the phrase or material that emulates glass, such as polybicarbonate, acrylic mirror sheeting, or other reflective or transparent material. All reflective or transparent materials used to satisfy this section's requirements other than transparent glass and must be approved by the Director of Community Development. That language was brought before council and brought before the mayor, and mayor's recommendation is to add that language to the ordinance that was read in the first reading. But that would take an action.
Mayor, can I add something? I'm looking at the ordinance that's in the packet. This language is in this ordinance. So I believe it's been added between first and second reading, and the only thing we were doing tonight was to bring that to council's attention. If it's council's intention to leave that language in, then a motion is all that's needed to pass this as second reading.
Yeah. Okay. Councilmember Compagnie, did you get that?
Yes, I did, and I think now the council has full knowledge of what's going on. I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. All right, thank you. And then as to B, with the, do we have any more staff report, Doc, or have you already provided it?
I've already provided to that one in terms of the ordinance to terminate the moratorium. That's the second ordinance to be passed. It's on the agenda.
Very good. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 743, Self-Storage Moratorium Termination, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, terminating the moratorium on the expansion or creation of self-service storage facilities imposed by Ordinance 17-838 and repealing said ordinance.
All right. And as this is a first and second reading and enactment all combined together, I'll ask Councilmember Kopang if you would seek a motion to suspend council rules to effectuate all of that to occur.
Yes, I move to suspend rules and terminate the self-storage moratorium.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second to suspend the rules and not only do first and second reading and go right to enactment. Is there any discussion after a motion and a second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right. Matter passed unanimously. Thank you very much, Doc. Okay. Council reports. Councilmember Sefadasan.
I'm sorry, I was confused on that. We actually, can we get a motion to pass the ordinance?
Yes.
Yes, that was the second part.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Councilmember Kopang, the second item.
I move approval and adoption of the proposed ordinance terminating the self-storage moratorium.
Second.
I made a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. We would have had to get together sometime between now and September 4th to get that accomplished, so good catch. All right, now, council reports, Councilmember Sefadasan.
Thank you, Mayor. So I participated in the National Night Out and actually met a brand new resident of Federal Way who did host one, and he's been here 6 months, and he was completely impressed by the representation by fire and police who showed up, and council members also who came through. And he was very thankful and appreciative, and he was happy that he's moved to Federal Way. And I was also impressed that for someone who's only been here 6 months to organize a national night out gathering, but it was really great meeting him. I'm really bummed that I'm not going to be here this coming Saturday or for the movie, but especially for the Flavor of Federal Way, because this has been near and dear to my heart. And when it happens, I'm not even going to be here. I'm going to be leaving town. So just wanted to say I'm sorry I'm going to miss it, and that's my report.
You'll be there in spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Facebook Live.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Exactly.
Live, whatever, yeah.
That's right. All right, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So August 4th, so a couple weeks back, we had a Sound of Summer event that partnered with local community-based organizations to host at Truman High School. It was very well attended. We had about 85 people there and a lot of different community resources to share with the community. And so thank you, Lamont, for being there, and a number of other organizations. And so really just appreciate the community coming together to share with youth and new families to Federal Way about some of the community-based organizations we have in the city, which we have quite a few that are doing great work. Also, next Tuesday, I'm sponsoring a field trip to Federal Courthouse downtown Seattle for youth to learn about law careers, and so partnering with the Federal Way Youth Action Team on that to take about 20 to 30 kids down to the Federal Courthouse. So a great opportunity for them to learn about careers in law enforcement, and so I'm excited about that. Also excited about Flavor of Federal Way this Saturday, particularly for Cheyenne Salah's performance. I know me and Councilmember Moore recently met with him, and so his family is one of the first African-American families to move to Federal Way, and so really excited about what he has to share with the city. And so I think with that, I'll conclude my report.
All right, Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last Saturday, Councilmember Johnson and I met with a representative from Safe Warehouse campus. We spent about 2.5 hours walking to different areas within the campus. During that 2.5 hours, I spent I learned quite a bit about, the whole thing. But one thing really stood out during that visit is that we have this once in a lifetime to do something to preserve this beautiful area for future generations. So what my asking is that all the parties to work together to come up with a win-win resolution that benefits both the ownership of the IRG, but at the same time benefit the community. And if there's anything that I can do to help, I'm more than happy to do so. The other announcement that I want to make is that DSHS office here in Federal Way is going to have an outreach program where we send our staff to community-based organization. For example, it could be a day center or library where people can come in and meet with our staff and apply right there. They don't have to travel to our office. And this is the overall effort of our department try to reduce poverty by half by 2025. So this is just a public announcement.
Great.
Thank you.
And thank you for the work you do every day. Okay, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Well, just for fun, yesterday our little cockapoo celebrated his 2nd birthday with us. I think that's really important. So it's too bad that Tim Burns is walking away from that. So at any rate, also
precious dog. I remember right when you brought it in.
Yes, yes. He's been at City Hall, visited. He's a hyperallergenic dog, so it's safe.
Yeah.
He's a good little pup. We certainly love him. I just think that was really important for me to share that with the public.
Thank you.
That
Yeah.
we celebrated his 2nd birthday. Also, I just wanted to do a shout out to Jerry Lynn Clark. She's our council executive assistant, and to Greg Baruso, who we heard from earlier, and a shout out to Jessica Cox from Communities and Schools. This has been a three-person job, essentially, that have worked incredibly hard to put Saturday's event together. And I think it's really important that they get the recognition because I can tell you, Jerry Lynn's doing a lot. From the finance department to this outreach event to her job supporting the council. That is just an example of going above and beyond. And so I really think that she needs to get a pay raise. So that being said, I also visited the Abbey Winery this past Sunday, and it was incredible. If you haven't stopped by the Abbey Winery, it is Federway's first locally owned winery. And I was thoroughly impressed. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and really just enjoyed it. And so I know I sent an email to Brian, and I sent an email CCing the mayor. I appreciate the response. We want to do whatever we can to keep this little jewel in our community, and so I know that you just want to encourage that collaboration. Furthermore, I appreciate what Councilmember Tran just said about Weyerhaeuser. I think that's really important. I support what you say, and I think that's really important. It's not something that every community has. And I think I just want to remind the public and my colleagues that Camp Kilworth is a part of that. They have very similar needs in terms of really protecting our environment and open space and preserving our history. And I think that's really important. So I think it's time that we put those two things together. When we talk about Weyerhaeuser, we're talking about Kilworth. When we're talking about Kilworth, we're talking about Weyerhaeuser. So, I would like to see if there's any latest news. I don't know if there is any development. I would imagine not. We haven't heard. Yeah. So with that, I will end my report. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Duclos.
Well, I did have a meeting with somebody, one of the people that represents the buying firm of Weyerhaeuser. I think there may be some good news coming in the near future. I can't say what our conversation was, but I took it as a positive venture, so that's all I'll say with that. I also want to say, did everybody got one of these? Mm-hmm. It's, there's a headline, "Back to the Burbs." The suburbs now are getting a lot of people and a lot of companies come down, and one of them here, it says, Tommy Bahama finds talent and cheap rent in Federal Way. So I think Tim and our economic development director and others are doing a great job on getting us out there. And when people come to Federal Way and see the place, I think they have a different picture of Federal Way in their minds until they come down here and see what a beautiful city we have, how great it is, and how wonderful the people are. I know when I first came down here in I came out here in 1990, and I settled in Renton because where I came from, I worked for an agency where there was a pilot there, and he flew back and forth for Boeing. And I drove down here one day, and I fell in love with the city. I really did. It was so nice and clean, and it had some great stores. It was better than South Center at that point in time. And so when I took the job down here, I said, I'm going to live and work in this community. And I've never regretted that. This is a great community. We've got great people. We've got good council members. And I go way back to when this city first formed. And even then, the council members, they had a lot of problems to tackle, and they tackled them. And it's turned into a very wonderful city and great citizens. And I'm really proud to be here.
Well, thank you very much.
And I am actually going over to Ocean Shores this weekend. They're having fanfare with the Seahawks.
Ah, fun.
So it's a big day over there.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Kopeng.
Yes. It's funny how you have the two that are on 12 o'clock, after 12 o'clock go last. But anyway, we knew that Deputy Mayor Honda was, but you skipped right over me. Anyway, I want to just give another shout out to the We Love Our City the gang and their work at the Blueberry Farm Park this last Saturday. Another great example of the community coming together to take care of a park that is well loved, but due to short staffing, has not been able to be maintained at a level that I think we would all like to have been maintained at by the park staff. So certainly no criticism of the park staff. I think they are one of the hardest working groups in our city, and I certainly have a lot of admiration for their commitment to serve our city and to take care of the parks and keep them at the highest level they can. But again, I think that getting the city, the community involved in helping out and giving a lift, I think is certainly encouraging to me as a council member, and know is encouraging to the park staff as well, and just something I really appreciate. And I also want to just take a moment to recognize Marwan again. As the chair of the Land Use and Transportation Committee, I just wanted to say how much I've appreciated his insight and his steady presence. I think he filled some big shoes with the departure of Kerry Rowe a few years back, and I think the Public Works Department has just continued to move forward, and I look forward to him enjoying retirement. Hopefully he'll come by and visit us every once in a while. But again, I certainly appreciate him. And then Kathy Schrock as well, who served as the communications for our police department for years. I know she's moving on as well. And again, I know we'd be honored her today during the day. But again, I think she's served our city well, and I certainly appreciate her efforts and wish her well in her future endeavors.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark. And thanks for staying on the phone with us. And thank you for, again, being dedicated, being all the way out there in Wisconsin, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
My gosh.
Oshkosh, Bagosh. So thank you very much. All right, Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. I'd like to thank those 800-plus people who attended the 62nd Annual Salmon Bake, which is held on July 27th at Steel Lake Park. I would encourage you to mark your calendars for the 63rd Annual Salmon Bake, which is the fourth Friday of July next year. It'll be a great event, as usual. And thank you to all those Kiwanians who served and who made this event possible. I'd also like to thank Betty Taylor for having a vision for bringing together neighbors throughout the city of Federal Way, that their neighborhood doesn't hold a national night out event. We worked together with many other people and held an event excuse me, at Town Square Park last Tuesday. We had well over 200 people there. The Lions Club came and supported us by cooking hot dogs for everybody. And it was really a great event. We have pictures that we'll be showing in the near future and a video, and it was really great. But thank you, Betty, for having that vision, and it can only grow from here on out. I'd also like to congratulate the Save Weyerhaeuser Campus Group for 2 years of public engagement and involvement, and also for getting the 501c3 status. I believe that when this group came together 2 years ago and came to City Hall with over 300 people that one night, that they have changed the way that people engage with the City Council and the city staff. We have several other groups working on different issues, including those working on Camp Kilworth and the Creekwood development. But I believe that our citizens know that they can come to us and that we will listen and we'll respond and we'll do everything we can to help them. And I really thank the Save Weyerhaeuser Group for what they're doing. And I am very pleased to announce that my son and daughter-in-law just had their second child. Harlow Rose Lynn Honda is 7 days old today. She weighs 6.5 pounds, and she's beautiful and healthy, and I couldn't be happier. Well,
congratulations. Great to hear. Glad to hear that, and It's glad you could get the time to get out there, and also simultaneously for both of you, both Councilmember Kopeng and Deputy Mayor Honda, to dutifully participate and listen in on our meeting, and I think we accomplished that seamlessly. So thank you. I think Councilmember Martin Moore has one last thing he'd like to say.
Yes, I do. I'll make it really quick. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today, I had the opportunity to attend a ceremony of outgoing PIO officer, Kathy Schrock. She is an amazing person. I hope you guys had a chance to meet her, but she has served the city incredibly well. I know that she served the mayor's office well as well. I've been fortunate because we have a connection through a personal family friend, and so she is an incredible, strong woman, and I know she'll be going off to Burien. And so of course, I wish her best of luck, but I just wanted to acknowledge and thank her for her service to the city of Federal Way.
All right, and with that, we are adjourned. Great job, everybody.
I don't know why they were included in the article. They're off of 323rd and on 320th. They're on the east side of the freeway. Random. Good, how are you guys doing?
Very productive. Here as always.
Yeah. Well, you have to give you keys because you'll fall asleep.
Right.
I'm going to let Sean.
You guys have a good vacation?
So I don't know if maybe he didn't check it or.